Chapter 1918. You liar. Don't try to lie to me anymore. Don't think that I don't know. At this moment, Xiao Ming suddenly said something out of the blue, which stunned Dustless. What did I lie to you about? Dustless asked hesitantly. It was just an identity. Was there anything else that he didn't tell Xiao Ming? Humph, Xiao Ming snorted and frowned her delicate nose. Then, she said, Moon God and Great Sea Ming were on your side that day. To be honest, I was shocked. They have been your people for a long time, right? Oh, so that's why. Hearing this, Dustless was enlightened. He smiled and said, it's better to be safe than sorry. It's never a bad idea to rope in a few more friends, especially people like you. People like me? Xiao Ming was slightly surprised. She looked at Dustless in confusion and asked, could it be that I have an advantage over Moon God and Great Sea Ming? That's not it. Every one of you has your own characteristics. Dustless shook his head and said softly, all in all, what's your choice? You saw what happened that day. Although you're very loyal to Dong Huangtai, that guy is evil. You're just cannon fodder and chess pieces to him. You're right. Hearing Ji Hao's words, Xiao Ming gave a bitter smile and said sadly, only after what happened last time did I realize that all members of the school of Yin Yang were nothing but goods in his eyes, including us, elders and protectors. We were disposable. That's right. The Yin Yang school under my rule is finally back on track. Dustless nodded in agreement. You. Hearing this, Xiao Ming rolled her eyes at Dustless and complained, so after all this time, you just want to use Dong Huangtai to set off your nobility. That's the truth. Dustless stared at Xiao Ming's pretty face and asked, if you want to stay, my door will always be open for you. As for leaving, I won't stop you. However, changing the topic, Dustless continued, I think it's better for you to stay in the school of Yin Yang. If you travel alone, you'll attract unnecessary trouble. Quicksand, Mahist, and other sects all view the school of Yin Yang as a thorn in their side. They want nothing more than to get rid of them as soon as possible. Moreover, someone as beautiful as you will definitely be targeted by lechers if you leave the Yin Yang family. Therefore, it's better for you to continue staying in the Yin Yang family. You obviously said that on purpose. Young Master Ming was instantly speechless. Dustless had already said so. Could she still leave? Immediately, he let out a long sigh and said, since everyone agrees that you are the new leader, I have nothing to be dissatisfied with. Xiao Ming had no choice but to admit defeat. Your choice is definitely the wisest one. Hearing this, Dustless was overjoyed. He couldn't help but stroke young Arbiter Ming's purple hair. Don't touch me. Sensing Dustless approaching and rubbing his body against hers, young Master Ming's lips twitched. At this moment, a strange feeling swept across her heart. The words that she was going to scold Dustless suddenly became soft and coquettish. Young Master Ming's face immediately turned red. She was quite embarrassed. Why are you being so formal? We are engaged to begin with. Have you forgotten that Dong Huangtai has already betrothed you to me? Plus, we have slept on the same bed. Dustless chuckled and approached young Master Ming again. In the end, he took an inch and wanted a mile. Finally, he hugged her slim waist. Nonsense. Have you forgotten that Dong Huangtai has already been expelled by you? Of course, his words don't count. Young Master Ming didn't appreciate it. She looked annoyed, but when she heard Dustless continue to accept this marriage, she couldn't help but show a little dimple on her face. It was very cute. However, this scene only lasted for a moment. Dustless didn't notice it. How is this nonsense? You are my fiancé. That is a fact. Dustless said seriously, plus, I am thinking for your sake. Thinking for my sake? Young Master Ming turned her head and looked at Dustless in confusion. She asked, this is obviously you bullying me. How did it become thinking for my sake? No. Dustless showed an unprecedented shameless expression and said seriously, if our marriage is really over, I am a thick-skinned man. Of course, it doesn't matter if no one is pointing fingers at me. But what about you? Others will definitely say that I am the one who divorced you. How can I bear to see a young lady being pointed at behind her back? So, I can only sacrifice myself and give up my own happiness. For your sake, I will continue to accept this marriage. Pfft. Young Master Ming was stunned by Dustless's words. This guy's level of shamelessness was rarely seen in this world. His shameless words made people speechless. She couldn't find any loopholes. He must have gotten used to it after a long time. You scoundrel. Young Master Ming glared at Dustless with dissatisfaction and turned her head away. She didn't want to look at Dustless anymore. You call me a scoundrel? Dustless pretended to be angry. He took a deep breath of young Master Ming's elegant body fragrance. Finally, he got close to her ear and blew a breath of hot air. Young Master Ming's pale earlobes suddenly itched, and she started to panic. Now, I will show you how scoundrel I am. As soon as he finished speaking, Wu Chen attacked young Master Ming's thin lips. In the blink of an eye, he sealed young Master Ming's mouth. Young Master Ming was stunned. She didn't expect Dustless to be so daring. She started to struggle violently. However, to Dustless, young Master Ming's strength was not worth mentioning. On the contrary, sometimes, resistance and struggle could arouse a man's desire to conquer. It would make him more interested than usual. It would make him drool. Chapter 1919. When he woke up again, it was already the morning of the next day. Damn it, what's going on? Dustless's head was so swollen that it felt like it was going to split open. Yesterday, he had accidentally crossed the line and finally tore off the last layer of clothing with young Master Ming. What a sin! Looking at the obvious bloodstains on the bedding, Dustless felt awkward. In his mind, he suddenly recalled the crazy scene last night and couldn't help but smile bitterly. No matter what kind of creature it is, they are all controlled by their subconscious desires. Wu Chen sighed. When he saw young Master Si Ming's half-naked body, he picked up the blanket and covered her body. Looking at young Master Ming's body, Dustless's heart was itching again. The rosy white body aroused Dustless's ambition. Just as he was about to crawl under the bedding and go back to sleep, young Master Ming's voice sounded first. Don't move, it hurts, young Master Ming moaned softly, her pale face frowning subconsciously. Let's go back to the little sage manor and deal with Fu Nian first. Looking at the torn clothes on the floor, Dustless roughly glanced at them. They were all young Master Ming's clothes. She was also exhausted yesterday. There was still a long time in the future, so there was no need to rush. Crack, crack, crack. First, he stood up and stretched lazily, his bones cracking. Then, Dustless walked around twice, and then put on the Confucian disciple's special jacket unhurriedly. In his mind, he was thinking about how to deal with Yen Lu and Fu Nian. Although these two weren't as cunning as Zhang Liang, they were very smart. It wouldn't be good if they saw through him. Creak. Unexpectedly, just as he opened the door, a few slim and graceful figures were standing in the quiet corridor. Why are you guys like ghosts? You don't make any sound when you walk. Dustless said unhappily. He looked up and saw Yueshan, Great Master Ming, Concubine Yan, and Yu Er appearing in the corridor without even greeting him. Big Brother Dustless was too engrossed, so he didn't notice us. It's been almost 4 hours. Yu Er's small nose snorted and muttered. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing this, Dustless coughed awkwardly. He pretended to be serious and ordered, in the future, without my permission, no one can deliberately approach my residence. Although the school of Yin Yang emphasizes the fusion of Yin and Yang into all things, there are still some aspects that need to be restrained. Otherwise, if this goes on for a long time, the body will be worn down sooner or later. The moon god glanced at Dustless and spoke plainly. This is my private matter. It's not up to you to interfere. Also, my body is very healthy. You want to wear me down? Dream on. Dustless stared at Moon God angrily. What Moon God said made him lose face. She was obviously questioning his ability in some way. What is it? The sun has just risen. Dustless asked doubtfully. The sun had just risen. At this time, most people were still sleeping. Everyone was very lazy at dawn, and Dustless was no exception. The second in command of the Confucian school, Yen Lu, is here. He said he wants to see Dong Wang Tai. Great Si Ming said faintly. He looked at young Si Ming, who was sleeping peacefully in the room, and was quite jealous. After all, she was the first person to have sex with Dustless. Him? Dustless frowned and asked, did that guy say what he was here for? No, he didn't. This time, it was concubine Yen who spoke. As Dustless became the leader of the school of Yin Yang, there were no extra restrictions on her relationship with Yu, and her mother. They could meet whenever they wanted to. Therefore, concubine Yen was very loyal to Dustless. Do we need to kill him? He dared to enter the mirage alone. He has guts. Concubine Yen sneered. If it was outside the mirage, it would be fine. However, Yen Lu had entered the mirage alone, which was full of experts. It was obviously an early death. Don't worry. I will take care of Fu Nian and Yen Lu. Moreover, they can die anywhere but in the mirage. Dustless waved his hand. As a spy of the Confucian school, he could take care of these two people. But he said he wants to see Dong Wang Tai. Moon Goddess said hesitantly, Dong Wang Tai has left the school of Yin Yang. Where can we find him? This is very simple. Outsiders have never seen the real Dong Wang Tai, right? Dustless smiled mysteriously. This is true. Moon Goddess, concubine Yen, and Great Si Ming looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Dong Wang Tai was always dressed in black and wore a gloomy mask. No one knew who he was, and no one could see his real face. So, this mission can be completed by anyone. Anyway, no one has seen Dong Wang Tai. Anyone can be Dong Wang Tai. Wu Chen narrowed his eyes, a sly look flickering in them. Bring me the clothes that Dong Wang Tai usually wears. I will pretend to be Dong Wang Tai. Yen Lu dared to sneak into the mirage alone. I want to see if he has eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's guts. On the mirage, in the lobby that was usually used to receive guests. He is not here yet? Yen Lu paced back and forth. His calm state of mind was rippling. He had been waiting for 2 hours, but Dong Wang Tai still had not come to receive him. It was extremely rude to leave a guest aside and not ask about it, especially for a sect like the Confucian school that paid attention to etiquette. It could be seen that the school of Yin Yang looked down on the Confucian school. Isn't it a pleasure to have friends from afar? There is such a saying in the Confucian school, right? A strange sound wave spread out. Yen Lu looked up and saw a strange yet expectant figure. It was so quiet that it seemed to have come out of the void. There was not even a trace of fluctuation. It was like a dead man walking upright. Yen Lu could not sense his aura. Seeing this, Yen Lu was shocked. He said in disbelief, "This is Dong Wang Tai? He is indeed as unfathomable as the rumors say. I can't even see how he appeared." Chapter 1920. Senior. Yen Lu hurriedly cupped his fists and bowed apologetically. "Senior, please forgive me for my sudden visit. Don't worry about it. We will be on the same side in the future. If you have something to say, just say it." Dustless disguised himself as Dong Wang Tai spoke like an old man. "Why are you calling me senior?" Dustless was quite uncomfortable with this title. A few days ago, because he had become the third master of the Confucian school, he had helplessly called Yen Lu and Fu Nian senior brothers. Now, this fellow had suddenly changed to calling him senior. This world was changing really quickly. What is it? Dustless disguised himself as Dong Wang Tai and Yen Lu sat down. Dustless looked at the latter expectantly, hoping that this fellow would give him a suitable answer. To tell you the truth, I have come to discuss the marriage of the Confucian school's Zichen and your young master Ming. After thinking for a bit, Yen Lu said, my senior brother Fu Nian said that the sooner the marriage, the better. It's me for this matter. Wu Chen's face was filled with disappointment. He originally thought that Yen Lu had brought some shocking news. It turned out that it was just this stupid matter of a marriage alliance. He immediately felt very bored and somewhat regretted coming to see Yen Lu. Let's hold it in the next few days. Dustless casually said, in the next few days, I will order young Master Ming and Zichen to get married. From then on, the two families will become one. That would be for the best. Yen Lu was overjoyed. He did not expect Dong Huangtai to so readily agree to the conditions of the Confucian school. Thinking of Fu Nian's instructions, Yen Lu opened his mouth. Just as he was about to pull the relationship between the two families closer, Dustless disguised as Dong Huangtai's voice came first. To tell you the truth, just a while ago, the original third master of the Confucian school suddenly came. Wu Chen suddenly said something shocking. His words stunned Yen Lu on the spot. He looked at Wu Chen with a head full of fog. Zifang? After being stunned for a few seconds, Yen Lu came back to his senses. He recalled Zhang Liang's background and the grudge between him and the Qin dynasty. His heart skipped a beat, and he sighed inwardly. Could it be that Zifang launched a sneak attack on the school of Yinyang? Looking at Dustless disguised as Dong Huangtai, Yen Lu suddenly felt despair. Look at how scared you are. Dustless stared at the nervous Yen Lu with a mocking look, then laughed in his heart. He pretended to be filled with killing intent and said, that guy just sneakily attacked the guardian of the school of Yinyang, moon god. This, Dustless's sudden words caused Yen Lu's expression to change drastically. Perhaps the relationship between the Yinyang school and the Confucian school would be destroyed because of Zhang Liang. Senior, Zifang is young and ignorant. May I ask where he is? I will definitely teach him a lesson and give you a perfect answer. Yen Lu quickly spoke up for Zhang Liang and begged, as for the injuries of the guardian of the moon god, the Confucian school is willing to take full responsibility. Seeing that the two factions are about to be connected by marriage, please just let it go. Of course. I still trust the Confucian school. However, Zhang Liang. Dustless's tone became slightly heavy. In the barren mountains west of Mulberry Sea, Zhang Liang is surrounded by the Yinyang school. I hope you can persuade him to turn back. Thank you, Senior. Goodbye. Yen Lu left with a face full of gratitude. He left the Mirage without stopping and did not return to the Little Saint Manor. Instead, he went to the barren mountains west of Mulberry Sea City that Dustless said. When did Zhang Liang sneak attack the moon god? Why didn't I know? She was fine just now. Seeing Yen Lu leave anxiously, concubine Yen, who had rushed over, asked. Of course, I made it up. Taking off the heavy prop that was Dong Huangtai, Dustless smiled sinisterly. Unfortunately, Yen Lu will not meet Zhang Liang. He will die there forever. He tricked Yen Lu out of the city just to find a suitable place to kill him. Dustless did not have a good impression of Zhang Liang. He was insidious, hypocritical, and liked to play tricks. Yen Lu had helped Zhang Liang time and time again. In that case, he could not blame Dustless for being ruthless. Who are those people? Standing on the Mirage, Dustless could not help but frown as he looked at the soldiers of the Qin state walking on the street. Although they were all soldiers of the Qin state, their aura was different. These soldiers that he had never seen before were definitely the elites of the elites. You don't know? Concubine Yen looked at Dustless in surprise. After seeing that he did not seem to be lying, she said, those are the Shadow Secret Guards, Ying Zhang's shadows. Their general is Zhang Han, Ying Zhang's trusted subordinate. I heard that he is loyal to the Qin state and will carry out any order. I see. No wonder I feel a sense of familiarity. It's Zhang Han. Dustless looked at the general on the horse. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Those who were stared at by Zhang Han could not help but have goosebumps. Zhang Han's strength is not bad. He can be considered an expert. His ability to solve cases is superb. I did not expect Enrich to send him here. It seems like he values Shanghai a lot, concubine Yan said. The one who should have a headache was the anti-Qin alliance. Zhang Han is loyal to the Qin state. That's a big mistake. Zhang Han is loyal to Enrich. Wu Chen sneered. In history, Zhang Han was a person with both praise and blame. After Enrich's death, the Qin state fell into an unprecedented turmoil. All of this was because Zhao Gao appointed Hu Hai, the second son of the Qin state, as the emperor. Under the tyrannical rule, all kinds of uprisings broke out. It was worth mentioning that the hegemon of Western Chu, Xiang Yu, led his army to war with Zhang Han. During the Battle of Julu, the Qin army led by Zhang Han was defeated by the Chu army. Logically speaking, someone like Zhang Han who was highly valued by Enrich should have died in battle to thank Enrich. However, that was not the case. Zhang Han shamelessly submitted to Xiang Yu and even brought along 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers. Later on, Xiang Yu was afraid that the surrendered Qin soldiers would revolt, so he displayed the ruthlessness of the hegemon of Western Chu and killed all 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers. Because of this, Zhang Han was given the title of Traitor of Qin. Chapter 1921. Zhang Han and his secret shadow guards entering Mulberry Sea was just a small interlude. In the end, he's just a clown who thinks he's infallible. Dustless glanced at Zhang Han and followed Yen Lu. Zhang Han might be glorious now and in the future, but his ending was tragic. He was defeated by Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, and he committed suicide. However, some people you don't care about just love to care about you. Are you Zichen from the Confucian school? As soon as Wu Chen came down from the elusive mirage, Zhang Han leaped down from his steed and greeted him warmly. However, his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, threatening to pierce through anyone's heart. That's right. What can I do for you? Dustless glanced at Zhang Han and asked frivolously. Seeing this, Zhang Han's eyebrows shot up. Ordinary people wouldn't even dare to breathe loudly in front of him, let alone someone as calm as Wu Chen. I also know that other than being the third head of the Confucian school, you also have a special identity, the left guardian of the school of Yin-Yang. Zhang Han said. You're quite well informed. Dustless's eyes widened slightly. He was surprised by Zhang Han's intelligence. Then, he glanced at the elusive mirage. There were probably spies from the Qin army on it. Thinking about it, it made sense. Who was Qin Shi Huang? He was the first emperor in history, and he was able to unify the 6 states. His foresight was unparalleled. As the saying goes, how can one allow others to sleep beside one's bed? The 100 schools of thought were the source of chaos, but the school of Yin-Yang was also one of them. It was normal for him to be wary of them. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. The secret shadow guards will take advantage of everything. Goodbye. After smiling, Zhang Han cupped his fists and left. The school of Yin-Yang was Qin's ally, and the Confucian school wasn't Qin's enemy. What's the meaning of this? Is he here to show off? Behind Wu Chen, concubine Yan frowned as she stared at Zhang Han's back. She couldn't shake off the feeling that Zhang Han's words were laced with undisguised hostility. Concubine Yan, don't worry about it. Dustless waved his hand and explained with a smile, Enrich values the school of Yin-Yang. Naturally, some petty people are jealous. There's no need to bother with them. They're just a bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. For example, Zhao Gao and Li Si were both afraid that the Yin-Yang school would become too powerful and threaten their plans. In their hearts, Hu Hai was the most suitable to be emperor. Even though this guy was not as good as Fu Su, but for their own interests, Li Si and the others still chose the former. This is an internal conflict of the empire. It has nothing to do with us. Let's go and destroy that brat Yen Lu, and then kill Fu Nian. It's best if we can find a suitable reason to shift the blame to Zhang Liang and kick this eyesore cockroach out of the Confucian school. Dustless said with a cold smile. Then, he glanced in the direction where Yen Lu had disappeared and followed him like the wind. As for Yen Lu's life and death, it was undeniable that this person was not bad and did not have any conflict with Dustless. However, they had different standpoints and stood on opposite sides of each other. It was inevitable that they would meet on the battlefield. Secondly, Yen Lu had helped Zhang Liang time and time again. This had also touched Dustless's bottom line. Strange, in the barren mountains outside Mulberry Sea City, Yen Lu frowned as he stared at the surrounding desolate area. He had been wandering around for almost 2 hours, but he did not find any trace of Zhang Liang and the others. Could it be that the school of Enyang's information was wrong? Yen Lu guessed. After searching for a long time, he still did not find anyone from the school of Enyang. Tap, 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 at this moment, light footsteps suddenly sounded. Yen Lu subconsciously turned his head. Zichen. After seeing who it was, Yen Lu felt even more strange, especially when he saw the woman in a palace dress standing beside him. His brows were almost knitted together, and he was somewhat dissatisfied. Even though he was about to have a marriage alliance with the school of Enyang, there was no need to be so close to the school of Enyang, right? Why are you here? Yen Lu glanced at concubine Yen. If not for her existence, Yen Lu really wanted to tell Dustless to keep a distance from concubine Yen. Perhaps because of Zhang Liang's influence, Yen Lu also felt a little repulsed by the school of Enyang, but he did not show it. Second senior brother, are you looking for a wife? Wu Chen asked with a smile. His expression looked harmless to humans and animals. Ever since he became the third master of the Confucian school, Dustless had been upgraded magnificently. Yen Lu, Fu Nian, and Dustless had become the same generation. That's right. Yen Lu nodded. Just as he was about to speak, a flash of light suddenly burst out in his eyes. An extremely exaggerated light rushed toward him at a rapid speed. Realizing that something was wrong, Yen Lu hurriedly drew his sword, but it was already too late. In front of light, no one was an exception. Pfft! Fresh blood flowed out of the corner of Yen Lu's mouth. He looked down in disbelief. It was a dazzling golden sword, and the person who waved the butcher's knife at him was his third junior brother, who looked sunny and gentle just now. At this moment, his expression was cold. His pitch-black eyes were isolated from the world, as if he was not a person of this world. Zichen. This is your true face? Looking at Dustless, who was so close to him, Yen Lu gritted his teeth and said, I don't understand. Is it because of my relationship with Zifang that I am on your must-kill list? This is just one of the reasons. A mysterious force twisted his face, and the face that was made up by Great Si Ming returned to normal. A face that was different from Zichen's was revealed. You are Dustless. Yen Lu's pupils suddenly shrank, and his fists cracked. Zifang, that bastard, brought you into the Confucian school. He wants to kill little Saint Zhuang. Chapter 1922. At this moment, Yen Lu could finally understand Fu Nian's heart. No wonder his relationship with Zhang Liang was so bad. Zhang Liang was a straightforward person. He did everything according to his will. Or rather, he was more straightforward. Everything was based on the recovery of Korea. He completely ignored the life and death of the sage manor. Regret it? Dustless pulled out the sharp edge of the heaven-gathering cloud sword. He smiled and joked, if you want to complain, you can only blame Zhang Liang. It's best to go to the king of hell and sue that kid. It was Zifang who introduced you to the Confucian school. No matter what, he has done you a favor. Why do you repay kindness with enmity? Yen Lu fell to the ground when he noticed that his vitality was quickly disappearing and his abdomen was bleeding. He was in a trance, and Dustless was blurred in his eyes. You said Zhang Liang has done me a favor? Yen Lu, what a joke. Zhang Liang just wanted to use me to deal with the Qin state, and Fu Nian just wanted to use me. The marriage with the Enyang school, hoping that the Confucian school would soar and soar to the sky. However, it was undeniable that Fu Nian's dream had indeed been achieved. But the head of the Confucian school will also be changed. Dustless sneered, to put it bluntly, the Confucian school is just a place to hide evil. Although the Confucian school read the books of the sages every day, as the saying goes, no one is without a sage, and everyone has their own selfish motives. There is no exception to this. Sun Tzu of the Confucian school once said that human nature is evil. You, staring deeply at Dustless, Yen Lu asked, did Dong Wang Tai ask you to kill me? At that time, he could have killed me directly on the mirage. There was no need to go through so much trouble like now, making a trap and deliberately waiting for me to take the bait. Yen Lu didn't think that he could escape from the mirage, which was full of experts. Stupid guy, haven't you realized it yet? How sad. Concubine Yen looked at Yen Lu disdainfully and sneered, the Confucian school really likes to be self-righteous. Isn't it Dong Wang Tai in front of you? When mentioning Dong Wang Tai, Concubine Yen deliberately emphasized the word. What? Are you Dong Wang Tai? Hearing that, Yen Lu shuddered, and a panicked expression appeared on his face. He did not expect the Dustless in front of him to be the Dong Wang Tai that the 100 schools of thought feared. I've already kicked him out of the school of Enyang. The Dong Wang Tai you were talking to was me. Dustless explained as if nothing had happened. Since Yen Lu was a dying man, there was no harm in telling him everything. Yen Lu's heart was filled with despair. In a trance, he had already understood Dustless's plan. After killing me, you will probably kill senior brother Fu Nian and become the new head of the Confucian school. You are really a vicious villain, vicious? Dustless mulled over this word. He lowered his head and squatted down, looking into Yen Lu's eyes. Don't you think it's funny? Even if I don't interfere, the Confucian school will still die. In the future, Qin Shi Huang Zhang's burning of books and burying of Confucianism was caused by Zhang Liang. Most of the disciples of the Little Sage Manor were buried alive by Zhang. Zhang Liang has boarded the pirate ship of the Anti-Qin Alliance. He has already implicated the Confucian school. Only by handing the Confucian school to me can you prevent such a monstrous disaster from happening. I am the head of the school of Enyang. I can protect the Confucian school, so the Confucian school can continue to exist safely. Do you still think I'm vicious? Hurry up and call me a great philanthropist. Dustless did not understand where Yen Lu's ignorant prejudice came from. In what way was he inferior to Zhang Liang? Identity, status, or strength? He had an overwhelming advantage in all of them. Are you saying that Zifang is related to the rebellion? Yen Lu gritted his teeth, and the veins on his fists bulged. When Zhang Liang was related to the rebels, the Confucian school was already finished. The Qin state's laws were harsh, and there was the crime of being implicated, which meant that the Little Sage Manor could not stay out of it. Once it was exposed, it would definitely suffer a fierce attack from the Qin state. Impossible. Zifang would never collude with the rebels. He still has a bottom line. Yen Lu shook his head stubbornly, looking like a one-track mind. Ha 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 ha. How sad. Are you still lying to yourself? Zhang Liang joined the Confucian school just to use the power of the Confucian school to recover Korea. Your Confucian school, the school of Mo, and Wei Zhuang's quicksand are actually props for that kid to restore his country. Hearing this, Dustless could not help but laugh out loud. He mocked, it's even more ridiculous to say that Zhang Liang would never collude with the rebels. You're still lying through your teeth. Am I not the biggest rebel in the world? And the person who led me to the Confucian school is Zhang Liang. You still dare to say that he would not collude with the rebels? That's nonsense. Dustless's bounty was the highest in the world. No one could challenge him. Zhang is tyrannical. Zifang was not wrong to rebel against him. Even if he did something inappropriate, it was human nature. I still believe in him. His vitality was completely exhausted. Yen Lu finally fell to the ground. There was no breath left. There was a relieved smile on his face. It was not difficult to see that he believed in Zhang Liang's choice until his death. It's not wrong to be anti-Qin, but it's not important to me. In this world, whether the future master's surname is Ying or Zhang, it has nothing to do with me. But Zhang Liang, that kid, was wrong to go against me. He deserved to die. Glancing at Yan Lu's corpse, Dustless's eyes spun faster. Tens Ho. The dark fire engulfed every part of Yan Lu's body and evaporated him in an instant. He disappeared without a trace, not even leaving a corpse behind. Concubine Yan, you can go back. Leave the rest to me. After staying for a while, Dustless turned around and left with Concubine Yan. His shining eyes were full of determination. Since the plan had been implemented, Dustless would not hesitate to retreat. Once he stepped out, even if there was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood in front of him, there was no turning back. Chapter 1923. Be careful. Fu Nian is not a kind person. He is powerful and good at scheming. Also, the Confucians are not easy to deal with. Don't forget that in addition to Fu Nian, the Confucians also have a mysterious Sun Zi. Concubine Yan nodded and cautiously told Dustless to be careful. The reason why she was able to meet Yuer was all because of Wu Qin. Otherwise, if she was still the Eastern Emperor Tai of the past, she would probably still be locked up in an ice-cold prison. Don't worry. Dustless gave her a reassuring look. The corners of his mouth raised slightly, and he smiled very calmly. In Mulberry Sea City, black smoke covered the sun, and the pungent smell made people uncomfortable. Look, the Sage Manor is on fire again. This is bad. The Sage Manor is the holy land of scholars in the world. The fire must have caused heavy losses. There are many insights left by the Confucian sages in it. That's right. Poor thing, I remember that many years ago, the Sage Manor was on fire. What's the situation this time? Was it man-made, or was it an accident? Who knows? The Confucians are really unlucky. Looking at the distant black smoke rising into the sky, the common people of Mulberry Sea City began to whisper to each other. All of them had blank looks on their faces. The Confucian school was just too unlucky. In the past, there had been a sudden fire that had caused heavy losses. This time, the momentum of the fire seemed even fiercer than before. The entire sky had been burned bright red, and even hundreds of meters away, they could feel the blazing heat. Fire? What's going on? Dustless, who had just returned to Mulberry Sea City, also looked up in surprise at the Sage Manor in the distance, where the smoke was rising from all directions. Immediately, he quickly sped away. Before he left, he still remembered that the Sage Manor was safe and sound. Why did the Sage Manor inexplicably catch fire in less than 2 hours? Which bastard is so bold to set fire to the Sage Manor? Dustless rushed back to the Sage Manor. At the same time, his brain cells were working frantically, thinking about who dared to set fire to the Sage Manor. Why are you so sure that it was done by someone else? The fundamental reason was that the Little Saint Manor had a big fire in the past. The fire prevention equipment was very comprehensive. Usually, they paid great attention to setting fires. The bamboo slips for books were also specially treated. It was very difficult for them to catch fire. Moreover, even if they did catch fire, it was absolutely controllable. However, the current fire was too shocking. It was definitely caused by human factors. Damn it, this is bad. Inside the Sage Manor, the Confucian disciples were all in a flurry. They carried buckets of water and ran to put out the fire. However, the fire this time was extremely terrifying. It was unrealistic to put out the fire with manpower alone. The fire was getting bigger and bigger. Fu Nian was sweating profusely as he directed the scholarly disciples to extinguish the fire. Looking at the monstrous flames, even though he was sweating profusely, his heart was cold. Which bastard did this? If I catch him. Humph. A cold light condensed in Fu Nian's eyes. The origin of this flame was too strange. In just 10 minutes, it had spread to the Sage Manor. It was definitely man-made. Grandmaster, we've found the source of the fire. The scholarly disciples were covered in dust, their faces covered in soot, looking extremely comical. Very good. Hearing this, Fu Nian's spirit was refreshed. He couldn't wait to ask, where was the fire first? Quickly take me to see. It's Grandmaster Sun's place. The scholarly disciples looked at each other and gave an answer that Fu Nian didn't expect. Damn it. Fu Nian was furious. His heart suddenly quivered. A deep sense of unease spread out and spread throughout Fu Nian's heart. He hurriedly ran to Sun Zi's residence. Sun Zi's temperament was quiet. He lived alone in the bamboo forest. Usually, no one would disturb him. He lived in seclusion. It was indeed a good choice to set a fire at his place. There was also one thing that was certain. Sun Zi wouldn't set fire to the Sage Manor. There was no doubt about this. After all, he was a scholarly disciple. Therefore, there were only two possibilities. Either Sun Zi suddenly went out and was seized by the villains to set the fire, or Sun Zi was killed. Even if someone set the fire, they couldn't stop it. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. After passing through the bamboo forest, Fu Nian finally arrived at Sun Zi's residence. It was a mess as he imagined. It was all burned to ashes. The bamboo forest, which was usually beautiful, had become a dangerous place. Someone's here? Fu Nian looked over and suddenly saw two figures. Zi Fang and Zi Qin. Fu Nian frowned. These two figures were Dustless and Zhang Liang. He asked anxiously, "Where's Grandmaster Sun? Is he okay?" "He's already dead." Zhang Liang sighed and pointed to the two charred corpses in the distance. "There are knife wounds on their bodies. I'm afraid someone deliberately set the fire after they were killed. Moreover, from the looks of the fire, half of the Sage Manor was burned in less than an hour. There's an 80% chance that they were prepared." "I know this," Fu Nian nodded solemnly. The fire this time was obviously man-made. Moreover, Sun Zi was killed before the fire was set. Although Sun Zi was old, his strength was very good. Moreover, his inner strength was profound. To be able to kill him silently, the person who plotted against the Sage Manor must be unfathomable. Damn bastard. How dare you snatch my things? I really admire your courage. Dustless had a conflicted expression. He searched for a long time but couldn't find the Yellowstone Heavenly Book that he had temporarily given to Sun Zi. It was most likely burned. However, nothing was absolute. Dustless felt that the Yellowstone Heavenly Book must have been snatched away. Who would watch such a good treasure be burned? It didn't make sense. Moreover, Wu Chen had also guessed who the mastermind behind the arson this time was. The two of them should have guessed who it is. He glanced at Zhang Liang and Fu Nian. Their eyes were flickering. They should have guessed who the mastermind was, but they were helpless because they didn't have any evidence to blame. Chapter 1924. Only the 6 sword slaves can do this. They are also hostile to the Confucian school. Little sage Zhuanghuahua and Li Si were inextricably linked. After a while, Zhang Liang said with bright eyes, "I can't think of any other candidates besides them." "Well, your analysis makes sense. Although Li Si is Martial Uncle Sun's student, they have no feelings for each other. Li Si even hates Martial Uncle Sun. Maybe it's because of what happened last time." Sigh, Fu Nian's face was bleak, and then he nodded thoughtfully. It seemed that he also thought so. Zhang Liang is indeed very smart. Dustless's thoughts were not far from Zhang Liang's. Looking at the known masters in this world, there seemed to be no other suitable candidates except the 6 sword slaves. The 6 of them cooperated closely and could be said to be flawless. It was not a coincidence that Sun Zi died under their swords. Moreover, Li Si also disliked killing people to silence them. Due to the death of Han Fizi, Sun Zi and Li Si parted ways. Especially when they met at the Little Sage Manor last time, Sun Zi made Li Si lose face. Li Si was even more determined to take revenge on the Confucian school. It was normal for him to set fire to the Little Sage Manor. Moreover, he had a criminal record. When the Little Sage Manor was on fire, Li Si's whereabouts were strange. He had an unknown premeditation. Sigh, with a lonely sigh, Fu Nian's eyes were particularly helpless. He smiled helplessly and said, even if we know that Li Si instigated it, can we take revenge on him? The people don't fight with the palace. Besides, the Little Sage Manor doesn't even have evidence. It will only be regarded as framing. Although he was unwilling, Fu Nian had to bow his head. Framing the Prime Minister was not a small crime. But even so, we can't bear it. We have to resist. Otherwise, Li Si will be even more presumptuous. Zhang Liang glanced at Fu Nian and felt that his opportunity had come. He tentatively suggested, why don't we immediately cancel the engagement with the Yinyang school as a means to take revenge on Li Si and Zhao Gao? They are allies of the Qin kingdom anyway. Wait, Dustless, who couldn't stand it anymore, interrupted. He stared at Zhang Liang and asked, it's okay for me to cancel the engagement with young judge, but what does this have to do with taking revenge on Li Si? That's right. These are two completely different things. Fu Nian also asked with a frown. Not only did he have no intention of declining this marriage, but his eyes lit up as he said, I think we can use the power of the Yinyang school to fight against Li Si and take revenge. This. Just pretend I didn't say anything. Zhang Liang stared blankly. He suddenly realized that he had lifted a rock and smashed his own foot in the end. Originally, he hoped that Fu Nian would hate the state of Qin because of this, but unexpectedly, he valued the Yinyang school more and borrowed their strength to deal with Zhao Gao and Li Si. Perhaps this is what it means when things reach an extreme, they will move in the opposite direction. Zhang Liang's heart was filled with emotions. He looked at the silent Dustless with hidden bitterness. Every time this guy appeared, he would be possessed by the god of misfortune. Even drinking water would get stuck in the gaps between his teeth. Who told you to be so full of yourself, always thinking that you can change everything? You're just asking for humiliation. Serves you right, you idiot. It was said that the eyes were the windows to the soul. Dustless saw Zhang Liang's depressed heart through his eyes. Let's put out the fire for the time being. We'll talk about the future later. Fu Nian looked at the corpses of Sun Zi and his errand boy, and his eyes flashed with hatred. Damn Zhao Gao and Li Si. I didn't find trouble with you, but you two reckless things still dared to come out and court death. I really don't know where you get your confidence from. Do you think my things are so easy to take? Dustless left expressionlessly and sneered in his heart, anyway, I'm already the leader of the Yinyang school. I'll just leave this kind of thing to them. As for Dustless, he secretly glanced at Fu Nian from the corner of his eyes. He was thinking about how to kill him and then frame Zhang Liang, and finally kick Zhang Liang out of the Confucian school. It was definitely more interesting to make this guy a stray dog than to kill him. Every time he looked at Zhang Liang's wise eyes that seemed to control everything, Dustless felt a wave of disgust. That's right. His eyes suddenly lit up. Dustless came up with a plan. He quickly moved to Fu Nian's side and suddenly said, the Yinyang school wants me and young Master Si Ming to get married soon. As for the location, it's at the Mirage. Mirage? Fu Nian was slightly dissatisfied. If possible, he really didn't want to go to such a place. But then he glanced at the Sage Manor behind him. It had been burned into a desolate place and was obviously not suitable for marriage. In this way, the Mirage would inevitably be the first choice, so Fu Nian could only follow Dustless's wishes. Let's do it at the Mirage. This time, we have to make the scene bigger. The Confucian school must not lose face. Fu Nian's face was as sharp as a knife, and his face was serious. Borrowing the strength of the Enyang school to take revenge on Zhao Gao and Li Si is a good plan. I'll go too. Zhang Liang's eyes shot out a bright light, and he immediately took the lead to speak. However, Zhang Liang wanted to cry but had no tears. He had hoped that this incident would tear up the marriage contract between the two sides in one fell swoop. Who would have thought that the situation would turn around in the end? Such an unexpected result made Zhang Liang feel bitter and hateful. I was afraid that you wouldn't go. Otherwise, how could I trap you, kid? Dustless glanced at Zhang Liang with a slight sneer. He was really afraid that he would choose to turn a deaf ear. If Zhang Liang was willing to dig a hole himself, wouldn't that be the best ending? It would save Dustless the trouble of scheming against him. When is the specific time? Staring at Dustless, Fu Nian's eyes finally regained some light, as if he saw the hope of taking revenge on Li Si. 5 days later. Dustless raised 5 fingers and said slowly. Chapter 1925. Time flew by, and in a flash, it was the wedding day 5 days later. Time came and went in a hurry. On the Mirage, looking at the scenery of Mulberry Sea City in the distance, Dustless's young face had a look of age and vicissitudes that didn't match his age. Time really flies. Looking at the dazzling morning sun, Dustless sighed in a low voice. He stretched lazily and calmly moved his muscles and bones. He had just gotten up from his sleep and was a little dispirited. Just at this moment, soft and boneless arms hugged him from behind. What's the matter? Turning his head, Dustless saw a slender purple hair fluttering in the wind and into his eyes with a faint fragrance. Although her cheeks were covered by a veil, he could still clearly see her stunning appearance. I can only look for you if there's something. Xiao Ximing blinked her deep eyes and said with a little dissatisfaction, it's all your fault. In my life, there's only one solemn wedding, but you used it to scheme against others. Sorry, how do you want me to compensate you? Turning his head and looking at Xiao Ximing with a gentle gaze, Dustless pinched her white jade-like face, and then gently pecked Xiao Ximing's cheek. So fragrant. Dustless's face was full of enjoyment as he held Xiao Ximing's willowy waist. After a few days of peaceful life, he felt quite comfortable. You're not allowed to leave the Mirage for 3 days. Xiao Ximing's lively eyes rolled a few times. Her usual cold tone was now a little coquettish. She had never been like this before. Dustless had always been elusive and difficult to find. Unless he took the initiative to look for you, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to find this guy. Of course, no problem. Hearing this, Dustless straightforwardly agreed and said flatly, after killing Fu Nian and framing Zhang Liang, the only one left in the Confucian school is me. Young Master Ming nodded gently. Dustless's words implied that from now on, the Confucian school would have no leader. When the time came, they would be like fish on the chopping board. They could do whatever they wanted to them or even disband. Fu Nian was dead, Yan Lu was also dead, Zhang Liang had been expelled, and Sun Zi had also been assassinated by Zhao Gao's 6-sword slave. As a result, the Confucian school was left with Dustless as its third master. The position of sect leader was undoubtedly his, and he held great power in his hands. Is everyone here? As far as the eye could see, there was a group of people docked at the harbor closest to the Mirage. Almost all of the important disciples of the Confucian school had come. Fu Nian and Zhang Liang were both present, and it was worth mentioning that even Tianming and Xiaoyu, these two brats, were present. Other than that, there was also Li Si, Zhao Gao, Xiao Meng, and even Fu Su. Of course, there was also Zhang Han whom he had met a few days ago. The school of Enyang really has a lot of face. They have invited so many important and prominent people at once. Dustless was quite surprised at the influence of the school of Enyang. In the end, it was just a sect, but even an heir of the empire like Fu Su had come without any trouble. It was truly impressive. Young Master Ming was speechless. She said coquettishly, "You are the new sect leader of the school of Enyang, and you don't even know the power of your own sect?" I think you are the fake one. Ahem, Dustless coughed awkwardly and immediately changed the topic. He said, let Moon Goddess go and receive them. Also, tell concubine Yen and Great Master Ming that since Zhao Gao and Li Si are here, their residence must be lax. Sneak in now and find my Yellowstone Heavenly Book and steal it. The mirage was decorated with lanterns and colored banners. The red lanterns that symbolized joy stretched as far as the eye could see. Where is Dong Huang Tai? Your school of yin yang is so impressive. Young master is here, and he did not come to receive you personally. As soon as he stepped onto the mirage, Li Si used this as a pretext to make a fuss. He stared at Moon Goddess and scolded unhappily. Does the school of yin yang think that young master's identity is not enough for Dong Huang Tai to receive you personally? Ever since the marriage between the school of yin yang and the school of Confucianism, Li Si and Zhao Gao had categorized these two sects as enemies. Lord Minister. Seeing Li Si's sudden attack, Moon Goddess was calm and composed. She replied calmly, the hierarch is in seclusion and is not on the mirage. Lord Minister, why do you care about this? Furthermore, young Master Fu Su did not care. Lord Minister, since you are so impatient, do you have other plans? You, don't talk nonsense. Li Si's expression changed slightly. He sneaked a glance at Fu Su. Seeing that his expression was normal, he could only swallow his anger. Fu Su did not say anything. What else could he say? It was inevitable that people would gossip about him. If you want to talk, please continue. Forgive me for not keeping you company. Xiao Meng of the Sky sect walked away gracefully. She walked straight to the mirage. Her snow-white legs could be seen from time to time. They were evenly distributed and perfect. Not bad. On a tall building, Dustless looked down at Xiao Meng and nodded approvingly. Ouch! At the same time, Dustless suddenly felt his waist being attacked. He grimaced in pain. He turned around and saw young Master Ming pouting her seductive lips and looking at him with dissatisfaction. What's so good about that woman? She doesn't care about anything around her. She is too arrogant. Young Master Ming exposed Xiao Meng's shortcomings. I didn't say she was good-looking. Dustless answered hesitantly. It seemed that she was imagining things. It was every woman's nature to be jealous. Who would believe you? Slightly wrinkling her nose, Xiao Ximing teased Ji Hao, which was rare for her, as if she was joking. If that was a thick, black, hairy leg, would you still be mesmerized by it? This, Wu Chen was rendered speechless by young Master Ming's question. Although Xiao Meng's slender legs were very attractive, Wu Chen was still a womanizer. He wouldn't be so infatuated with a woman. Especially when he was just looking at her legs, it would be a complete joke. The reason why he paid attention to Xiao Meng was because of other details. Chapter 1926. This woman is indeed aggressive. After looking carefully for a while, Xiao Ximing also noticed the difference. Is that so? You've finally noticed. Don't say that I've been charmed by her in the future. Dustless breathed a sigh of relief. Women are unusually troublesome when they're stuck in a dead end. After sorting out his thoughts, just as he was about to explain in detail, Xiao Ximing's words almost made Dustless fall out of the window in anger. This Tianzong Xiaomeng is really doing things her own way. Someone else is getting married, but she, as an invited guest, didn't even take the betrothal gift. Is the Tianzong of Taoism so unreasonable? Xiao Ximing wrinkled her nose, looking even more dissatisfied. Especially when Xiaomeng was casually rampaging through the Yin-Yang school's territory, Xiao Ximing was somewhat against it. Betrothal gift? I couldn't tell that you're a little money grubber. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Staring at Xiaomeng, who seemed to be wandering around, he explained, do you see the sword in her hand? The problem lies with the sword. Sword? Hearing Ji Hao, Xiao Ximing carefully observed the sword held in Xiaomeng's hand, then said in surprise, I heard that Xiaomeng's sword is called Autumn Lily, which is ranked number 9 in the sword book. Why is it now ranked number 6, Snow? Could it be that Xiaoming defeated Xiao Yaozi and regained control of Clear Snow? I don't know. Dustless shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. In the original work, Clear Snow had always been controlled by Xiao Yaozi of Human Sect. Now that it was taken by Xiaoming, there was only one possibility. To a certain extent, Xiao Yaozi might have been killed by Xiaoming. Of course, nothing is absolute. Squinting his eyes, Wu Chen continued, Xiaoming is a very strange person. Her character is unpredictable. Perhaps she has made some kind of deal with Xiao Yaozi, and it is also possible that she used snow calming as the exchange condition. But, the trivial matters of Taoism have nothing to do with us. Act according to the plan. After killing Fu Nian, blame it on Zhang Liang. Fu Su and Li Si are all here. Now is a good opportunity to ruin Zhang Liang's reputation. It's a pity to let it go. Dustless's eyes glowed with a ferocious light as his gaze finally landed on Fu Nian's head. Where's Master Zichen? In the gold and jade hall, Fu Su sat in the main seat. After seeing Dustless was absent, he could not help but look at Moon God and ask, in such an important occasion, where is the master? This, Moon God hesitated. She didn't know what Dustless was doing, so she said, maybe he's preparing for the wedding. What a pity. Right at this moment, Xiaoming spoke abruptly, that kid ran away the last time we discussed the Tao using words. He probably won't refuse this time, right? Everyone frowned when they heard this. Today was someone else's wedding day, yet Xiaoming wanted to discuss the Tao with the sword. Was this appropriate? It was clearly a slap in the face. Jiejia, on the other hand, Zhao Gao and Li Si were rather excited. They revealed gloating smiles. Xiaoming of the Heaven sect of Taoism. She is indeed an unpredictable character. If I remember correctly, she should be the helper Dustless found by Fu Su. Why would she make things difficult for Dustless? Zhang Liang was also extremely confused, but there was an obvious smile on his face. He looked rather happy. Those who didn't want the Yin-Yang school and Confucian school to form an alliance through marriage were extremely happy. After all, Xiaoming was clearly looking for trouble with Dustless. Wasn't this slapping the Yin-Yang school and Confucian school in the face? Sigh. I can only hope that Master Zichen is safe. Fu Su was also extremely helpless about this. Xiaoming was an extraordinary person. It was already good enough that she agreed to help him. As for restraining her, Fu Su had never thought about it. What was worth mentioning was that Xiaoming wasn't invited to this wedding. She came completely uninvited, so she came empty-handed. She even threatened to cause trouble for Dustless. I am very grateful that everyone is willing to honor me with your presence. The deadlocked atmosphere was broken by this silent newcomer. Everyone followed the source of the commotion, and what entered their eyes was Wu Chen. His bright pupils were full of radiance, and he was brimming with vigor. You came at the right time. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find you. When Xiaoming saw Dustless appear, her right hand was already holding Snow Dawn. It looked like she was about to attack immediately. You're in such a hurry to humiliate yourself? Noticing that Xiaoming was staring at him as if he was her prey, Dustless glanced at Moon Goddess. The latter immediately nodded. This is the Yin-Yang school. If you want to attack, let me do it. Moon God calmly met Xiaoming's gaze without any fear. As the right protector of the Yin-Yang school, Moon God had no need to fear Xiaoming, even if she was the head of the Heaven sect. I'm here to discuss the Tao with the people of Confucianism. You're not my prey. Xiaoming only glanced at Moon God and ignored her. Her gaze finally fell on Dustless's head. You're also not my prey. Dustless complained in his heart. He wanted to kill Fu Nian. As for Xiaoming, she was really not interested and did not have the slightest intention to fight. How about this? Dustless chuckled and looked at Zhang Liang with evil intentions. His face was full of evil smiles. What kind of trick does this guy have? Seeing Dustless's teasing expression, Zhang Liang's indifferent face, which originally wanted to watch a good show, suddenly collapsed. Every time he walked together with Dustless, he seemed to be innocently attacked. Chapter 1927. This damn thing. Zhang Liang wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Dustless's indifferent face was adorned with a faint smile, perhaps because he saw the pain in his heart. Zifang, you will represent the Confucian school to exchange a few moves with Master Xiaomeng. Dustless finally opened his mouth and deliberately emphasized the word Confucian school. This cunning and insidious guy, he did it on purpose. Zhang Liang's face was extremely gloomy and kept changing. He naturally knew that Dustless was tricking him, but he had no suitable reason to refute. If it was for Dustless himself, Zhang Liang could still refuse, but saying that it was for the Confucian school was equivalent to indirectly blocking Zhang Liang's path of retreat. If it was for Dustless, he could retreat, but if it was for the Confucian school, even if there were hungry wolves and fierce tigers in front of him, Zhang Liang would still bite the bullet. You win. After secretly glaring at Dustless, Zhang Liang could only helplessly stand up. Hee. It's your honor to sacrifice a little for me. You should be grateful. Dustless smiled without saying anything, looking at the depressed Zhang Liang, his cheeks sour. Master Xiaomeng, Zhang Liang stood up very elegantly, bowed slightly to Xiaomeng, and then cupped his fists. Zhang Liang of the Confucian school, please, no need. However, the sad thing was that before Zhang Liang could say the word teach, he was directly interrupted by the indifferent Xiaomeng. After sweeping a glance at him, he was instantly disappointed. A mere ordinary disciple of the Confucian school dares to fight with me. Are you humiliating me? Xiaomeng's words were sarcastic, looking at the silent Fu Nian with extreme dissatisfaction. Fu Nian felt a headache. If it was in the past, it would naturally be fine. But it was different now. A long time ago, Zhang Liang's identity had been stripped by Fu Nian, and the current third head of the Confucian school had become Dustless. As for Zhang Liang's current identity, he was just an ordinary disciple of the Confucian school. Although his strength was not bad, his identity and status were 1,000 miles away from Xiaomeng. Fu Nian had to call Xiaomeng senior when he saw him, which was enough to show how high this guy's seniority was. He was of the same level as Sun Zi, and Zhang Liang's identity was not suitable. Aren't you looking down on me too much? Zhang Liang was secretly depressed. He was extremely dissatisfied with Xiaomeng in his heart. Her words earlier were equivalent to mocking him in front of everyone, saying that his status was not qualified. Even with Zhang Liang's character, his expression took a turn for the worse. However, this was not the worst. Zhang Liang, you don't deserve to fight me. When Xiaomeng's sudden words came out of her mouth, Zhang Liang, who had suffered a huge blow, discovered that the way others looked at him had undergone a huge change. They were all filled with all sorts of disdain and undisguised disdain. Zhang Liang wanted nothing more than to find a hole in the ground to hide in after being told that he wasn't fit to fight. No matter what, his family had been prime ministers for 5 generations. Now, he had completely lost face. That's enough. You can leave now, Zifang. At this moment, Dustless suddenly looked at Zhang Liang with a look of disdain. That hateful gaze clearly revealed the meaning. What's the use of having you? This bastard will be struck to death by lightning sooner or later. Zhang Liang even had the thought of dying. His fists were tightly clenched. It seemed like he would start a fight at any moment. This fellow purposely let me come out to be humiliated by Xiaomeng. Zhang Liang's face turned black and extremely ugly. He finally understood Dustless's scheme. Xiaomeng's intention this time was naturally Dustless. She had asked Zhang Liang to come out and brush her off. Naturally, the other party would not give her a good face. As for why Xiaomeng came for Dustless, Zhang Liang guessed that it was because the school of Yin-Yang was still a part of the school of Taoism a few hundred years ago. Both sides had a great origin. Now, the school of Yin-Yang was far more famous than the other schools of thought, including the school of Taoism. As the legal successor of the school of Taoism, Xiaomeng was naturally dissatisfied. The arrogant Xiao Meng probably wanted to use this opportunity to test the strength of the school of Yin Yang. Her original intention was to use the school of Yin Yang. Dustless's identity was undoubtedly the most suitable. In the past, he was a disciple of the Confucian school. Now, he was the husband of the school of Yin Yang. It was undoubtedly the most suitable to use him to slap her face and establish her prestige. This fellow knew from the beginning that Xiao Meng came for the school of Yin Yang. Therefore, he purposely let me come out to provoke Xiao Meng. He will only be satisfied after being humiliated by her in public. Despicable Dustless. Zhang Liang's heart was bleeding. Unknowingly, he had been tricked by Dustless again. In the end, Master Xiao Meng still wants to challenge me. Dustless looked at Xiao Meng with a helpless expression. In the end, he agreed, you can compete with me. However, what should I do if I lose? A competition is a competition. If you don't dare to, you don't dare to. Why are you asking what should I do if I lose? Could it be that you don't dare to? That's right. Xiao Meng nodded when she heard this. She looked at Dustless calmly and said, are you trying to raise conditions? It doesn't matter. As long as you can win, I can promise you anything. You are so confident. Looking at the calm Xiao Meng, Dustless couldn't help but have a whole new level of respect for her. He looked at Xiao Meng's sword and said, how about this? After you lose, you will hand over your snow calmness to me. How dare you? Without waiting for Xiao Meng to speak, Li Si, who had been scheming to take revenge on Dustless, took the initiative to attack. Do you know what this sword is? It represents the school of Taoism. It doesn't matter. Unexpectedly, Xiao Meng decisively slapped Li Si and agreed, if you can win, I can give it to you. This is the privilege of the winner. You should have the right to give it to the loser. This damned woman. I even spoke up for her. She doesn't know what's good for her. Seeing this, Li Si was incomparably depressed. Xiao Meng was too quick to add insult to injury. Chapter 1928. Straightforward. This was also within Dustless's expectations. In reality, he'd also guessed that Xiao Meng would agree. This fellow was indifferent to fame and fortune, and he was straightforward in nature. He was a true cultivator who could turn a deaf ear to everything and see through everything very clearly. Perhaps the so-called Xueji was just a piece of scrap metal in her eyes. The key was that the meaning behind it was different. I wonder what Master Meng wants to compete in. Dustless was very calm. Zhang Liang, who was watching at the side, gritted his teeth. It was completely different from his embarrassing appearance just now. To a certain extent, Zhang Liang's humiliating behavior had already thrown the face of the Confucian school. After all, he was a member of the Confucian school. After glancing at Fu Nian, Zhang Liang found that this senior brother, who had hidden his strength, was also staring at him intently. His eyes were also full of blame. I have to find a suitable way to solve the current predicament, Zhang Liang whispered to himself. All along, he had been tricked by Dustless and lost all his face. If he didn't find a suitable way to reverse the current predicament, even the group of people from the Mo family would look down on him. That's right, Zhang Liang's eyes lit up as a light flashed in his eyes. He was overjoyed. Li Si seems to hate Dustless. Zhao Gao is also the same. They can be used as tools. In an instant, a perfect plan appeared in his mind. Zhang Liang's deeply shocked expression returned to normal. What does Master want to compete in? Dustless stared at Xiao Meng's eyes and asked. If Master wants to compete in poetry and history, then I will admit defeat. To be honest, I am illiterate. You are magnanimous. You are the opposite of those hypocrites. It suits my taste. Hearing this, Xiao Meng looked at Dustless in a new light. As a disciple of the Confucian school and the third master, he was illiterate. This was definitely the biggest weirdo in the history of the Confucian school. However, Dustless's attitude of directly admitting it made Xiao Meng look at him in a new light. I won't bully you. Xiao Meng glanced at Dustless and said, since that is the case, let's have a competition of inner strength. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Inner force? Hearing this, Dustless's face stiffened. He remembered that in the original work, the content of the competition between Xiao Meng and Fu Nian was the depth of their internal force. Who would have thought that it would fall on him now? Master, the depth of one's inner strength doesn't mean anything. Why don't we do it this way? Let's be more direct. Let's compete with swords. Dustless said calmly. He didn't understand inner strength at all. No. Zhao Gao was the first to step out. He knew how terrifying Dustless's strength was. If they were to compete with swords, he would lose without a doubt. Therefore, he had to stop the competition. Master Xiaomeng is a transcendent being. She is too pedantic when it comes to swordsmanship, Zhao Gao gave a lame excuse. His lips trembled, and when he was about to continue speaking, Dustless's words made Zhao Gao's face turn red. This is a matter between me and Master Xiaomeng. Who are you to interrupt? Dustless glanced at him. That contemptuous look in his eyes quietly said, you are just a eunuch. Why do you have so much to say? You. Hearing this, Zhao Gao didn't show his anger on the surface, but in his heart, he hated Dustless to the core. The beautiful jade in his hand was crushed into pieces by him. Moreover, you are obviously abusing Master Xiaomeng. Master Xiaomeng's sword is Qiu Li, which is ranked 9th in the sword book. Now, Xue Ji, which is ranked 6th, is also in her hands. Obviously, she is a master of swords. Yet, you said that swordsmanship is too pedantic? Dustless caught Zhao Gao's faulty wording and hit the nail on the head. Zhao Gao stared at Dustless dumbfoundedly and said angrily in his heart, this kid has a sharp tongue. His eloquence is much better than his strength. I am not his opponent. It had to be said that Dustless had already displayed the power of a gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists to the limit. Let's have a swordsmanship competition. Xiao Meng didn't talk nonsense. To her, there wasn't much difference between a swordsmanship competition and a competition of inner strength. On the contrary, the former could show a person's strength more. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A clear sound rang out, and a cold light pierced towards Dustless's face. This woman, seeing this, Dustless frowned slightly and slandered in his heart, she didn't even give me a chance to announce the start of the competition. Does this woman want to defeat me so badly? But, seeing the sharp light coming towards him, Dustless was calm and composed. He tilted his head slightly and dodged the fatal cold light. Their reactions are quite fast. Slight ripples appeared in his calm eyes. Since she didn't make any substantial progress with her first move, Xiao Meng suddenly performed a fish dragon tail swing. Her swordsmanship seemed to be very skilled. Xue Ji was accompanied by a layer of light that could be seen by the naked eye, and it swept towards him from the left. Just as it was about to reach Dustless's neck. Poochie. Everyone was shocked when they saw Dustless's neck being crushed with one strike. This Xiao Meng is so powerful. She managed to heavily injure Dustless with just 2 simple moves. Everyone looked at each other and looked at Xiao Meng in shock. They were all dumbfounded. Dustless's strength was so strong that he could definitely be called the number 1 in the Confucian school. However, he had been heavily injured by Xiao Meng so easily. However, it didn't take long for these people to realize that they were wrong. Buzz buzz buzz, the skin that Xiao Meng touched did not show any signs of bleeding. Instead, it strangely glowed with a faint light. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, it instantly recovered. This is Soul Dragon Swim? The moon goddess was also dumbfounded when she saw this. She was a little stunned. She didn't know that Dustless knew the Yin Yang school's profound move, Soul Dragon Swim. Chapter 1929. The moon goddess was in a daze, and her body was stiff. She did not expect Dustless to have such an ability. The soul dragon was a profound technique of the school of Yin Yang. Outsiders could not learn it, and even some people from the school of Enyang did not know it. The only people who knew it were the moon goddess, concubine Yen, Xinghun, and Yu, However, after looking at it carefully for a while, the moon goddess realized that something was not right. Dustless's body suddenly exploded with a gorgeous golden light. It contained an extremely fatal temperature, and it seemed to be able to melt steel. It was fundamentally different from the school of Enyang's soul dragon. People from the school of Confucianism even know the techniques of the school of Enyang? This is the first time I've heard of it. Xiao Meng sighed, but her expression revealed a hint of sarcasm. Or Confucianism is good at talking? Do they only know how to use the techniques of other sects? Ha ha ha, hearing this, Dustless only laughed calmly and replied, "It doesn't matter what technique it is. As long as it can defeat you, it's a good technique. You are very confident." Xiao Meng blinked her eyes, and her figure suddenly became a little illusory. Swish swish swish. For some reason, Xiao Meng's figure suddenly floated, and a wisp of ethereal aura seeped out of her body. She only took a simple step, but it felt like she had crossed a few meters in an instant. This Xiao Meng is indeed different. She is so young, but she has already mastered the light and dust technique. Moreover, she has reached the wonderful level of familiarity, the moon goddess muttered to herself. She looked at Xiao Meng's tender face and could not help but praise her. Some people were poor their whole lives and still could not master a profound mental technique like light and dust. Swish swish swish. In an instant, the sharp blade pierced toward Dustless again. The tip of the sword was very tricky, and it seemed like it could turn. There was no way to escape, and it was about to pierce through Dustless's head. This Xiao Meng is ruthless. She wants to kill me with every move. When did I offend her? Dustless stared at the cold and gloomy face. He was very troubled. Buzz buzz buzz. Although Dustless was puzzled, he still reacted for the first time. His body released a golden light. Compared to the speed of the glint fruit, any mental technique or footwork in this world was weak. Poochie. The tip of Daybreak Dream's sword pierced through Dustless's head. It happened so quickly that it was difficult to capture. Ordinary people would not have been able to see it clearly before Dustless was insta-killed. Your reaction is too slow. Xiao Meng muttered softly. She exerted force with her slender hand, and the instant she pulled out Snow Dawn from Dustless's head, a wave of indescribable ripples appeared in the air. Then, Dustless, who had been pierced by Xiao Meng, suddenly dispersed like a reflection in water. This sudden scene made everyone's jaws drop. People like Fu Su and Li Si, who were not proficient in martial arts, had no idea what was going on and were at a loss. This is an afterimage? Zhao Gao exclaimed in surprise, his face filled with unconcealable shock. It's not a Confucian movement technique either. Fu Nian and Zhang Yan both frowned. Their Confucian school didn't have such profound martial arts to turn their bodies into afterimages that didn't disperse. Only when they were attacked would they disappear with the wind, which could be used to confuse the enemy. This guy, seeing this, Xiao Meng's expression changed slightly, becoming slightly gloomy. Not to mention others, even she, the person involved, didn't know how Dustless did it. His body turned into nothingness, gathering like a shadow and not dispersing, reaching the level of being able to pass off as real. This sounded simple, but who could do it? Swish swish swish. At the same time, a sharp sound of breaking through the air suddenly came, pouncing into one's ears. A fatal danger suddenly descended, and Xiao Meng, who realized that something was wrong, once again activated the profound footwork of light and dust. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Xiao Meng's voice once again became illusory. On the surface, it looked like she had taken a simple step, but in reality, it was different. She had actually retreated more than 10 meters in an instant. With such profound footwork, it will be difficult for Zichen to win. Fu Nian's heart was incomparably gloomy. To be honest, he was also shocked by Xiao Meng's strength. Light and dust was such a profound footwork that was difficult to control, but Xiao Meng had reached the familiarized proficiency realm. How could he not be shocked? Not to mention anything else, just in this short instant, Xiao Meng had retreated more than 10 meters with profound footwork, avoiding Dustless's attack. This speed was really too fast. If you can't even catch up with others, how can you fight? All your efforts are in vain. The profoundness of light and dust is not something you can understand. Light and dust, deep and indistinct. It can achieve the effect of shifting positions, so how can you deal with me? Xiao Meng muttered softly, then raised her gaze and looked at Dustless, but found that he had become mysterious again, disappearing from her sight. It was extremely strange. Where did this brat run to? Xiao Meng frowned, her gaze spread out, looking through the limpid autumn water, looking for Dustless's trace. Usually, when you say such words, the enemy is usually behind you. A tone full of ridicule resounded behind Xiao Meng. How is it possible? Upon seeing this, Xiao Meng's expression changed drastically, faster than flipping a book. She suddenly turned her head, and what came into her sight was Dustless's playful face and the sword tip pointing at her throat. Are you surprised? Seeing Xiao Meng's shocked expression, Dustless explained faintly, no matter how profound that the light and dust footwork is, in the final analysis, it's just a shadow chasing after light. To put it bluntly, it's just a shadow following behind, and I'm the shining person who ate the shining fruit, the embodiment of light. How dare you play with speed in front of me? Do you know how ridiculous and foolish it is to play with a big axe in front of Lu Ban? Dustless's face was full of ridicule, and he didn't care about Xiao Meng's pale face at all. She didn't understand what the shining fruit was. Chapter 1930. The glint fruit could turn the host into a glint of light and could unleash the speed of light. Its greatest advantage was its speed. Xiao Meng's dust with the light was naturally much slower. Of course, Xiao Meng couldn't be blamed for this. Who asked her to find an opponent who often cheated? Glint fruit? The moon god lowered her head. Her eyes shone with a strange light as she muttered to herself, could it be that the magma fruit that Great Sea Ming told me the other time is the same as this glint fruit? The moon god's eyes were filled with desire. Ever since Dustless gave the magma fruit to Great Sea Ming, her strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. The moon god had seen the destructive power of the magma fruit with her own eyes. It was simply beyond the scope of human knowledge. So what if you are fast? Xiao Meng snorted. She was extremely dissatisfied with Dustless's attitude. He had only won one round. Did he have to be so proud? At least you can't reach it. Dustless chuckled. His words made Xiao Meng speechless. Dustless was obviously provoking Xiao Meng on purpose. He purposely chose the most unpleasant words. Brat, you will regret this. Although Xiao Meng's face was still as indifferent as before, her eyes were filled with bone-piercing cold light. Obviously, Dustless had angered this cold lady. Swish. 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 Her figure became illusory again. Xiao Meng was like a shadow in the wind. Her body instantly drifted away like a breeze and disappeared from Dustless's eyes. Fast speed doesn't mean anything. After distancing herself from Dustless, Xiao Meng stared at Dustless's faint smile. She felt extremely annoyed and uncomfortable. Especially that confident look in his eyes. Xiao Meng felt that he was a thorn in her side. It was the biggest provocation to her. Dustless's confidence was looking down on her. Let me show you the true unique skill of the Sky Sect. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Xiao Meng took out her sword from the scabbard and put it back into the scabbard. Instead, she raised her right arm and made a strange gesture. Buzz buzz buzz, a mysterious energy fluctuation quietly erupted from Xiao Meng's body. It instantly invaded the surrounding space. Prepare to die. She glanced at Dustless with contempt. Her eyes were emotionless. Perhaps in Xiao Meng's eyes, Dustless was a corpse. Heaven and earth lose color. Just as its name suggested, the space around Dustless lost its color. Everything turned grayish-white. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment, as if time had stopped. I heard her say that this move is called, Heaven and Earth Lose Color. Not bad, right? Dustless whispered. He knew a thing or two about heaven and earth paling, which could make everything around him slow down infinitely. Just like the current situation, it was like a small independent world. The Taoist human sex rejuvenation of all things could counter Xiao Meng's heaven and earth losing color. Buzz buzz buzz, right at this moment, a wisp of a ripple appeared in the gloomy space once more, and a small hand that was pure white like jade suddenly stretched out. It seemed to intend to launch a sneak attack on Dustless. You're courting death. Seeing this, Dustless sneered and suddenly grabbed with both hands. 10,000 mammoth heavens pull. Boom boom boom. The majestic gravitational force distorted the space, and a vortex appeared in the gloomy space. As Dustless's chakra continued to output, the deathly silent space distorted violently. Especially the position where the small white hand was, it was forcefully torn apart by Dustless. Any ability is pale in the face of absolute power. The chakra that erupted from Dustless's body became even more violent. The tiny black hole that erupted from his palm distorted the gloomy space in an even more ferocious manner. The faintly discernible vortex was also constantly expanding. Ka ka ka. In the end, it couldn't withstand the raging gravitational force and exploded like a mirror. What kind of freak is this guy? At this moment, even with Xiao Meng's unshakable temperament, she couldn't help but rub her eyes. She thought that this was a ridiculous illusion that she had when she was sleeping. It's time to call it a day. Looking at Xiao Meng lazily, Dustless said, You could still move just now because I went easy on you. After all, today is my wedding day. It's inauspicious to see blood, so surrender obediently. How shameless. Young Master Ming, who had been secretly observing, immediately pouted when she heard Dustless's words. She knew that Dustless had prepared a series of plans to kill Fu Nian. Now, he actually said that it was inauspicious to see blood. His words didn't make sense. You want me to surrender? Dream on. Xiao Meng's eyes became colder. It was better to kill her than to surrender. Without any hesitation, she waved her hand lightly and an unparalleled sword attack whizzed out. If she lost, she would have to give snow to Dustless. Xiao Meng couldn't accept it. It wasn't that she cared about snow. Anyway, her sword, Autumn Dragon, wasn't inferior to snow in terms of power. The key point was that snow represented too much. How could she give the sacred Taoist item to an outsider? Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The sword light swept out, and a sharp light stood out. Ridiculous. Dustless snorted contemptuously. His body emitted a bright light, and he completely ignored the sword attack. He used the elemental transformation of the glint fruit to turn a deaf ear to it. Poochie. The sword strike cut through Dustless's body, splitting it into two. It looked like he couldn't be any more dead. He's finally dead. Xiao Meng was overjoyed, and the corner of her mouth slightly raised. However, as the light condensed, Dustless's body instantly merged into one and returned to normal. Xiao Meng's happy smile instantly became uglier than crying. It's time to end it. Huatong instantly appeared beside Xiao Meng. The high-density light compressed the heavenly sword of gathering clouds was pointed at Xiao Meng's throat. The boring competition finally came to an end. Keep it safe for me. I'll definitely take it back next time. After taking a deep breath and calming her emotions, Xiao Meng threw snow to Dustless in an extremely carefree manner. This action was also a disguised admission of defeat. Chapter 1931. Take it back? Hearing this, Dustless smiled without saying a word. Once something was in his hands, it would be impossible for it to be taken away. It was impossible for Xiao Meng to take snow back, unless Dustless took the initiative to give it to her. She lost just like that? Everyone was confused as they did not expect it to be so simple. The famous Xiao Meng was defeated so easily and it was a one-sided battle. This woman should know her place in the future. Wu Chen glanced at the expressionless Xiao Meng. Although there was no fluctuation of emotion on her face, Wu Chen could still guess that she was actually furious in her heart. Snow Calm was not an ordinary sword. This sword was ranked 6th in the sword manual. It was a sword that had been passed down in Taoism for hundreds of years. Now that it had lost to Dustless, Xiao Meng was naturally upset. Today's farce ends here. Everyone, please follow me to the cafeteria. The banquet is ready. Seeing that both parties had stopped, Moon Goddess recalled Dustless's plan and said unhappily, Dustless can go to the bridal chamber with young Master Ming. Goodbye, everyone. Hearing this, Dustless nodded and chatted with Fu Su and the rest for a while before leaving. Something is not right. This guy left home so quickly. It is definitely not the bridal chamber. Zhang Liang raised his eyebrows. He wanted to follow but could not get away as he still needed to deal with Moon Goddess. How is it? In a secret room in Mirage, Dustless looked at two people. They were concubine Yen and young Master Ming. Taking advantage of the time, Dustless ordered the two to sneak into Zhao Gao and Li Si's residence to look for the lost Yellowstone Heavenly Book. Sorry, we did not find it. Concubine Yen and Great Master Ming looked at each other and gave an answer that disappointed Dustless. Forget it, there is no rush. Dustless did not want to dwell on this issue. He then looked at Great Master Ming and said, How are your preparations? Are you confident? I have already told you about Zhang Liang's sword moves. How is your cultivation going? Of course, I have no problem with such a small matter. Hearing this, Great Si Ming smiled faintly. Then, under Wu Chen's gaze, he suddenly put on a great show. Great Si Ming instantly turned into Zhang Liang. Swish. Swish. Not only that, Great Si Ming also took out a beautiful sword that was inlaid with jade. It was almost identical to Zhang Liang's sword, Ling Su. Young Si Ming even started to dance with it. The moves were all taught to Great Si Ming by Wu Chen. They were all moves that Zhang Liang usually used, so they were 80% similar. Good, well done. Seeing this, Dustless's eyes lit up. He grabbed Great Si Ming's waist and pulled her into his arms, ignoring concubine Yen. He kissed her on the cheek excitedly. Later, you will disguise yourself as Zhang Liang and kill Fu Nian. Remember, you must let Fu Su and the others see it. Dustless said with a smirk. Just leave it to me. Being held in Dustless's arms, Great Si Ming squirmed for a while and realized that she could not break free. After all, she had already done that with Dustless, so why would she care about being hugged? Cough, cough, cough. Concubine Yen, on the other hand, coughed awkwardly. These two had completely ignored her existence. What are you coughing for? Concubine Yen, if you feel lonely, I have another leg for you. Dustless opened his left leg and patted it, indicating that concubine Yen could sit on it at any time. As for his right leg, it was already occupied by Great Si Ming. Humph, Lecher, I really don't know how someone like you can control the school of Yin Yang. Concubine Yen snorted coldly to hide her awkwardness. Then, she frowned and said, But Zhang Liang is with Fu Su and the others. How is Great Si Ming going to ambush them? That's simple. Hearing this, Dustless smiled calmly and said, Concubine Yen, later, go and secretly tell Zhang Liang that I have something to tell him. The content is that I am willing to help him recover Korea. That brat will definitely rush over without stopping. Great Si Ming will take this opportunity to kill Fu Nian and then I will shift the blame to Zhang Liang. You are trying to kill him. Concubine Yen shook her head. Concubine Yen couldn't help but shake her head. If that was the case, Zhang Liang was doomed. Great Si Ming had eaten the magma fruit and his strength was vastly different from before. It was inevitable that he would kill Fu Nian and disguise himself as Zhang Liang. As for Zhang Liang's moves, Great Si Ming had recently learned a few of them. First, he would beat Fu Nian half to death. Then, he would use Zhang Liang's moves and Zhang Liang's sword to kill Fu Nian. After that, Dustless would take the opportunity to slander him. In that case, would Zhang Liang still have a way out? Time passed quickly, and about 2 hours later. The plan is about to start. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at concubine Yen and said, "Go and call Zhang Liang over. Remember, don't let anyone see this. The content is what I said just now. I am willing to help him recover Korea. That brat Zhang Liang will definitely come over. As for Great Si Ming, take the opportunity to disguise as Zhang Liang and kill Fu Nian." Understood. Concubine Yen and Great Si Ming looked at each other and left the room to carry out their own tasks. "A mere Zhang Liang wants to fight with me. Aren't you overestimating yourself a little too much?" Dustless had countless ways to kill Zhang Liang. As for Zhang Liang, he didn't even have a chance to fight back. After this plan, Dustless would expel Zhang Liang from the Confucian school and let him live a life worse than death. Killing Zhang Liang would be letting him live in pain and endless hatred. This was the best way to take revenge on him. Chapter 1932. Is this really the only ending? Outside the cafeteria, Zhang Liang was drinking alone. He looked back at the joyous hall and felt uncomfortable. Even though he had mixed feelings, it was difficult to hide the bitterness in his heart. For a long time, Zhang Liang had been trying to pull the Confucians into the anti-Qin alliance. He had been working hard for this, but, as the saying goes, the ideal is too beautiful, but the reality is too harsh. Zhang Liang had encountered such a huge blow. Since he brought Dustless into the Confucians and led the wolf into the house, the good situation was gone forever. Zhang Liang had been living in the shadow that Dustless painstakingly weaved. Not only that, but he also lost his identity as the third master of the Confucians and was replaced by Dustless. "Mr. Zhang Liang," at this moment, a pleasant voice suddenly sounded. Zhang Liang was slightly stunned and turned his head to look. "I didn't expect. I wonder why concubine Yen is looking for me." The person who interrupted Zhang Liang was concubine Yen from the Enyang school. "Zichen said that he has something important to discuss with you. Please come with me." Pointing to the corridor ahead, concubine Yen made an inviting gesture. "What's the matter?" Hearing this, Zhang Liang was surprised. He didn't expect Dustless to take the initiative to look for him, especially sending concubine Yen to pass the message. Zhang Liang felt that something was wrong. "You didn't take the bait." Seeing Zhang Liang, who was nervous and slightly alert, concubine Yen frowned. Then she remembered Dustless's plan and whispered, "Zichen said that he is willing to help you recover Korea." What? Zhang Liang's first thought was that his brain was not enough. That ambitious and terrifying man suddenly changed his mind and suddenly helped him recover his country? This is the truth. Seeing Zhang Liang's shocked expression, concubine Yen tried to persuade him. "To tell you the truth, Zichen has been uncomfortable with the Qin kingdom for a long time. He just didn't show it." Uncomfortable with the Qin kingdom? It was fine if she didn't say it. After this sentence, Zhang Liang was even more suspicious. Because whether it was the Enyang school or young Master Fu Su, on the surface, they seemed to care about Dustless, and young Master Fu Su was the son of the Qin kingdom's emperor. What reason did Dustless have to be uncomfortable with the Qin kingdom? Zhang Liang didn't understand. It's Li Si from the Prime Minister Kingdom. He's been looking for an opportunity to take revenge on Zichen. I'm sure you've seen the competition before, right? Moon Goddess followed Dustless's instructions and explained everything in detail. That's true. Hearing this, Zhang Liang only nodded and reluctantly accepted Dustless's explanation. The relationship between Li Si and Dustless was very bad, even to the point that they were at loggerheads. Furthermore, Li Si was the Prime Minister of Qin State, an important minister of Qin Shi Huang. It was not easy to take revenge on him. Therefore, it was understandable that Dustless hated Qin State. "Alright, I'll go see Zichen." After some hesitation, Zhang Liang finally agreed and followed concubine Yan to see Dustless. Idiot, when you come back later, it will be your time of misfortune. Seeing Zhang Liang leaving with concubine Yan, Great Si Ming, who had been hiding in the dark, came out from the dark space and changed his appearance. He looked exactly like Zhang Liang. Since Dustless said that he was going to do his best to frame Zhang Liang, Great Si Ming had studied Zhang Liang's habits and imitated him in all aspects. First, it was his basic appearance and swordsmanship. Cough, cough, cough. After sorting out his thoughts, Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, stepped into the cafeteria and walked straight to Fu Nian's seat. Yo, Zifang, you're finally here. Quick, take a seat. In the dull room, Dustless looked at Zhang Liang, who was brought by concubine Yan. He pointed to the chair beside him and gestured for him to sit down. He even had a friendly smile on his face, but it was extremely terrifying in Zhang Liang's eyes. The Grim Reaper was smiling at you. What a terrifying thing. Speaking of which, didn't you and young Si Ming consummate their marriage? Zhang Liang, who felt that something was wrong, suddenly asked. At the same time, he looked at Dustless in disbelief. Who is this guy? Why is Yueshan acting like this? Zhang Liang looked at Yueshan, who was beside Dustless, cautiously. This guy was like a guardian angel, standing still. Obviously, he was here to protect Dustless. Although it was unnecessary, he didn't need any protection, but Dustless was just an ordinary Confucian disciple. How could he let Yueshan be his bodyguard? This was too strange. He couldn't explain it at all. By the way, are you sure you want to help me recover Korea? Zhang Liang was too lazy to talk nonsense. He said emotionally, I'll be very grateful in the future. This is just a small problem. I have something to ask you now. Looking at Zhang Liang, Dustless suddenly asked with anticipation, Zifang, if Korea really recovers one day, who do you think is suitable to be the new king? Of course it's me. Zhang Liang. Without thinking, Zhang Liang said his name. Then, afraid that Dustless would misunderstand, he quickly explained, it can't be helped. All the royal descendants of Korea are dead now. Although Quicksand Shi Lian was the princess of Korea, that was a long time ago. I'm afraid no one knows her now. Plus, Qi Lian is a woman, so she's not suitable to be the king. After sorting out his thoughts, Dustless continued, although Wei Zhuang is also a Korean noble, his identity is not suitable. If the people of Korea knew that their king was once an assassin, they would definitely resist. So you're more suitable to be the new king? Dustless asked calmly. That's right. Zhang Liang nodded seriously and said, of course, I'm only the temporary king. If there's a suitable candidate one day, I'll follow the example of the sages and abdicate. That sounds better than a song. If you don't abdicate when the time comes, no one can do anything. It's all nonsense. I didn't expect this kid to be so talented at lying. Dustless sneered in his heart. He couldn't be bothered to argue with Zhang Liang. He just needed to stall for time. Chapter 1933. On the other side, Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, had already made contact with Fu Nian. Senior brother. Great Si Ming imitated Zhang Liang and said respectfully with both hands, please excuse me for a moment. I have something important to discuss with you. Something important? Hearing this, Fu Nian touched his chin and looked at Zhang Liang strangely. He couldn't figure out what Zhang Liang was talking about. All right. However, due to his trust in Zhang Liang, Fu Nian didn't feel that there was anything wrong. Usually, everyone was like his own brother. Even though there was a lot of estrangement between them because of the marriage, the essence of being a disciple of Confucianism didn't change. Moreover, Zhang Liang was Fu Nian's junior brother. Huff. 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 Outside the elusive mirage, the wind whistled and danced wildly. The chilly wind made people uncomfortable and covered their hearts with a layer of dark clouds. Zifang. What's the secret? About 20 to 30 meters away from the cafeteria, Fu Nian said in a deep voice, the two of us are sneaking around. It's inevitable that we will be suspected by others. If you have something to say it quickly. Hee hee, Zhang Liang laughed, but it was a completely different smile from the one he used to have. There was an unprecedented coldness in his smile. You. Zifang, where are you feeling unwell? Fu Nian frowned slightly. His impression of Zhang Liang was that he was gentle like jade and was an out-and-out modest gentleman. He wasn't as scary as he was now. Senior brother, I am indeed feeling unwell, and I need a good medicine to cure my illness. In this world, you are the only one who can take out this medicine. Are you willing to save me? Zhang Liang asked without batting an eyelid. The fake Ling Su that was hidden under his long sleeves had already been drawn out. What do you mean? Is there such a strange disease in the world? Fu Nian was at a loss. He then gritted his teeth and said, we are senior brother. What disease do you have? Just say it. Then, hearing this, Zhang Liang's eyes suddenly narrowed. The chilling light in his eyes turned into a substantial murderous aura. The long sword hidden under his sleeve also shot out. Not good. Seeing this, Fu Nian's pupils suddenly shrank. He quickly retreated, but it was too late. Puchi. A bloody hole instantly appeared in Fu Nian's abdomen. The ice-cold longsword was rapidly devouring his vitality. Fu Nian's face instantly turned pale and powerless. If you are not Zifang, then who are you? Fu Nian clenched his teeth, and his eyes were bloodshot. Just now, he found it strange that Zhang Liang's murderous eyes and cold temperament that treated human life like grass were definitely not something that Zhang Liang could possess. Is that important? Zhang Liang looked at Great Si Ming coldly. His tone was exactly the same as Zhang Liang's, but now it was Great Si Ming. It's you. Fu Nian's face suddenly changed, and he asked angrily in a low voice, Yinyang School and Confucian School should have turned hostility into friendship. Why do you still want to attack me? Didn't Zichen have a marriage alliance with your Yinyang School? We're all on the same side. Huh, Zichen? One of their own? Your ignorance is laughable. After killing Fu Nian and completing the task given by Dustless, Great Si Ming felt exceptionally relaxed. He sneered and said, since you are about to die, I might as well tell you that the so-called Zichen is Dustless, and the person who gave the order to kill you is him. You're talking nonsense. Hearing this, the corner of Fu Nian's mouth twitched, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Zichen was brought into Confucian School by Zifang. How could he lead a wolf into the house? It's even more impossible for him to collude with the rebels. But this is the truth. You know that Zhang Liang is only using the power of Confucian School to recover Korea. Why are you still deceiving yourself? Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, continued to attack Fu Nian. You know better than anyone what kind of person Zhang Liang is. Hearing this, Fu Nian smiled bitterly. Just like what Great Si Ming said, he did know what kind of person Zhang Liang was. Confucian School's position in his heart was far inferior to Korea. Therefore, Zhang Liang secretly colluded with the rebels and led a wolf into the house. He has no reason to kill me. Everything I did was for his own good. Fu Nian clenched his fist, puzzled. He didn't feel that he had done anything wrong to Dustless, and even handed over the position of Confucian School to him. Stupid. Great Si Ming looked at Fu Nian with disdain and sneered. You used Dustless, and you still dare to say that it's for his own good? You just used him as a tool for the marriage with the Yinyang School. Have you ever understood how others feel? By the way, Yen Lu, who went missing in Confucian School these few days, was also killed by that guy. Great Si Ming's words were shocking. His words instantly aroused Fu Nian's hatred. He gritted his teeth and looked at Zhang Liang with hostility. He couldn't wait to swallow Zhang Liang alive. If he didn't lead a wolf into the house, how could Confucian School fall to such a state? Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me, Fu Nian's eyes flickered with hatred. He suddenly opened his mouth and shouted, "Everyone, there's an assassin." Fu Nian used his inner force to transmit this loud roar into everyone's ears. The guests who were eating in the cafeteria heard it clearly. "You're going to be finished this time." Fu Nian smiled gloomily. However, Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, stabbed him with his sword without any expression. Pfft! With his heart destroyed, Fu Nian's life was completely drained in an instant. He fell to the ground with blood all over his body. "Idiot, I can't wait for you to scream like that." Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, was extremely calm. He turned his head and looked at the guests who had already appeared. Fu Su and the others were all there. They were all dumbfounded when they saw Fu Nian lying in a pool of blood. Swish! 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 Seeing that everyone was in a daze, Great Si Ming, who was disguised as Zhang Liang, used the movement skill that Zhang Liang had once used. He retreated gracefully. Fu Nian is dead. The one who killed him is his junior brother, Zhang Liang. Chapter 1934. Almost everyone thought that the person who was retreating was Zhang Liang. His aura, movement and moves were exactly the same, so no one doubted it. The only thing that puzzled everyone was why Zhang Liang wanted to assassinate Fu Nian. After all, they were brothers. What kind of grudge did they have against each other that they had to fight to the death? Looks like Great Si Ming's plan has been completed. On top of a tall building, there were no obstructions in the surroundings and the view was excellent. The actions of Fu Su and the others were all seen by the moon goddess. Cough, cough, cough. At this moment, the moon god coughed twice with a strange look in her eyes. "It's done so quickly. It went smoother than I expected." Seeing this, Wu Chen chuckled. He had only fooled Zhang Liang for a few minutes, and this guy had already been smashed by his sugar-coated bullet to the point where he couldn't find his bearings. "All right, that's it." Dustless looked at Zhang Liang and said coldly, "You little brat, you can get lost now." Huh? Zhang Liang's face fell. Dustless wasn't like this just now. He was talking about the future territory of Korea with him. Why did he suddenly change his attitude? "What do you mean?" Zhang Liang looked at Wu Chen in confusion. His eyes were filled with anger. Wu Chen suddenly turned hostile and refused to acknowledge him. Zhang Liang had a feeling that he had been fooled. "I asked you to get lost. Don't you understand human language? The elusive mirage is my territory." Dustless looked at the moon god and waved his hand impatiently. "Moon god, please send him off." "You," Zhang Liang looked at Dustless angrily and asked in a deep voice, "You said you would help me restore Korea? You don't want to admit it now? Treachery is not something a Confucian disciple would do." Confucius said. Bullsh ****. Confucius said. He interrupted Zhang Liang rudely. Looking at the angry look on this guy's face, he was probably going to talk about the teachings of the sage again. What a blockhead. The sage and the Confucius said could solve all problems. The Confucians had already used their mouth to conquer the world. There wouldn't have been the spring and autumn warring states period that lasted for hundreds of years. You heard the leader's words. "Please, Mr. Zhang Liang. Please don't make things difficult for me." Moon God expressionlessly stood in front of Zhang Liang. Although she spoke politely, her heart was full of disdain. Everyone knew that the Confucian school was pedantic. It's a small world. There's still a long way to go. Just wait and see. After taking a few deep breaths of the icy cold air, Zhang Liang angrily flicked his sleeve and left. The instant he turned around, Zhang Liang's face flushed red. His entire body was filled with a chill that penetrated his heart. It was deathly silent and filled with despair. "Sect master?" The moon goddess addressed Dustless as cult master. How was this possible? Could this guy be the leader of the school of Yin Yang? Zhang Liang's brain cells spun rapidly, thinking about the true identity of Dustless. From the corner of his eye, he secretly glanced at Dustless's movements. Seeing his evil smile, Zhang Liang cursed inwardly and subconsciously quickened his pace. He seemed to have fallen into the big pit designed by Dustless again. Damn it, I was naive enough to believe Dustless's nonsense. Zhang Liang cursed inwardly and hurriedly walked to the place where they had gathered for dinner. After a while, he passed through the corridors and saw a large number of people gathered in the distance. His heart became more and more uneasy. Get out of the way. Zhang Liang hurriedly crowded into the crowd. When he saw Fu Nian lying in the blood wave, his whole person instantly became sluggish and motionless. Zhang Liang would never forget Fu Nian's unreconciled eyes. Which bastard killed eldest senior brother? The furious roar spread to the sky. Zhang Liang's temperament changed greatly. His elegant temperament was like being possessed by a demon, and his whole body was overflowing with an ominous murderous aura. How dare you, Zhang Liang? Seeing this, Li Si was so angry that he laughed and angrily rebuked. We all saw you kill Fu Nian with our own eyes. How dare you talk about others? Do you think we are all blind? This is outrageous. No matter how arrogant you are, you can't be like this. Zhao Gao, take Zhang Liang down for me. Nonsense. After being stunned for a moment, Zhang Liang immediately refuted loudly, I have no enmity with eldest senior brother. Why would I kill him? Li Si, don't think that just because you are the prime minister, everyone's eyes are clear. Zhang Liang's words were pleasant to hear, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was collectively slapped in the face. Have the Confucians already reached such a level of shamelessness? Xiao Meng looked at Zhang Liang and said disdainfully, I saw you kill Fu Nian with my own eyes. Now you want to deny it? Zhang Liang, give me an explanation. Fu Su also looked at Zhang Liang unkindly. What is this situation? Seeing this, Zhang Liang was instantly petrified. He felt like crying but had no tears. After talking nonsense with Dustless for so long, he came back and became the murderer? How lively. At this moment, Dustless's voice also sounded, full of ridicule and schadenfreude. Zichen, explain to them clearly. I didn't kill eldest senior brother Fu Nian. I was chatting with you just now. Zhang Liang hurriedly looked at Dustless for help, waiting for his rescue. Huh? Dustless's face was blank and naive. He immediately said seriously, don't talk nonsense. I was having a wedding night with young Master Ming. Who was chatting with you? Pfft. Hearing this, Zhang Liang suddenly spat out a mouthful of old blood. He was so angry at Dustless's words that he suffered internal injuries. Do you have to be so shameless? Even if you talk nonsense, you can't be so unscrupulous. You will get someone killed. Zichen, you despicable and filthy villain. How dare you plot to frame me? Zhang Liang's mouth was full of blood. His expression was like that of a ghost as he locked onto Dustless. His bones were creaking from anger. At this point, Zhang Liang finally understood why this guy was stalling for time. At the same time, he also understood that the culprit of Fu Nian's death was Dustless. However, what made Zhang Liang furious was that he had no evidence. Moreover, he was currently like a clay bodhisattva crossing a river, unable to protect himself. Chapter 1935. Zhang Liang was enraged and wished for nothing more than to dismember Dustless into 1,000 pieces in his heart. This fellow clearly knew that he was innocent, yet deliberately deceived him. His intentions were hateful. Zichen, you are deliberately framing me. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, Zhang Liang no longer cared about his image. He was so furious that his hair stood on end as he roared sternly, previously, you secretly invited me over to discuss the revival of the empire. In short, you invited me over. Zhang Liang did not have the courage to mention the revival of Korea. After all, Li Si, Fu Su, and Zhao Gao were still present. Wouldn't he be courting death if he said it? Why would I invite you? Please don't talk nonsense. Zifang, I was with young Master Ming the whole time. Dustless looked at young Master Ming, whose face was covered by a veil, and asked with a smile, Am I right, young Master Ming? Yes, although young Master Ming's tone was very light, everyone heard it clearly. You bastard, I will kill you. Hearing this, Zhang Liang, who could not bear it anymore, no longer spoke nonsense. He pulled out his sword from its scabbard and pointed the cold sword light at Dustless's eyes. Zhang Liang's face was filled with madness. Everyone had a bottom line in their heart. Once their reverse scale was touched, everyone would be like Zhang Liang, who couldn't control himself. Young Master Fu Su, this bastard Zhang Liang wants to kill you. He is so vicious that he won't even let his own senior brother go. I am useless for the Confucian school to have such a bastard. Dustless moved to Fu Su's side with a face full of shame and shame. You bastard. Ugh, Zhang Liang, who couldn't bear the blow, spat out another mouthful of blood. He was so angry with Wu Chen that his head was stuffy. This bastard was obviously talking about himself. The person who killed Fu Nian was obviously Wu Chen. But sadly, even though Zhang Liang's heart was as clear as a mirror, no one believed what he said. Oh right. Zhang Liang suddenly looked at the cold concubine Yan and said angrily, This woman invited me. She said that Zichen was looking for me, so I went over. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at concubine Yan expectantly. However, concubine Yan's answer made Zhang Liang collapse. Who are you? Concubine Yan stared at Zhang Liang as if she didn't know him. You bunch of despicable and shameless people. Seeing this, Zhang Liang's face instantly turned as pale as snow. There were no witnesses and no evidence. On the contrary, Wu Chen's side had all the advantages. There were witnesses and evidence. Zhang Liang knew that he would definitely be the scapegoat today. I also misjudged him. Fu Su nodded in agreement and looked at Zhang Liang with disdain. How did he get to know such a beast dressed in human clothing? If you want to fight with me, I'll kill you. Seeing the gloomy Zhang Liang, Dustless felt extremely pleased. Then, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, he sternly shouted, Zhang Liang, Zhang Zifang, you traitor of the scholarly faction. Today, as the third master of the scholarly faction, I will expel you from the scholarly faction. I will temporarily take over as the head of the scholarly faction. Who do you think you are? Hearing this, Zhang Liang immediately retorted. It was not Dustless's turn to have the final say in this matter. Eldest senior brother Fu Nian has been killed by you. Second senior brother Yan Lu's whereabouts are unknown. Uncle Master Sun has been plotted against by a traitor. I have to be responsible for the entire scholarly faction. Dustless said matter-of-factly. Sun Zi had been assassinated by Zhao Gao and the others. As for Fu Nian and Yan Lu, they were both dead. Wouldn't they be counting on him, the third master? All of this is your scheme. Zhang Liang roared loudly. His tone was sharp and ear-piercing. Although Zhang Liang didn't know where Yan Lu had gone, he was sure that it had something to do with Dustless. At that time, Yan Lu had disappeared after coming to the Mirage. From the conversation with Yueshan, Zhang Liang learned that Dustless was Dong Huang Tai. The entire Yinyang school was under Dustless's control. If all of this wasn't his scheme, who else could it be? Men, take down Zhang Liang. Fu Su looked at Zhang Liang expressionlessly. Then, he glanced at the 6 sword slaves behind Zhao Gao. This won't do. If Zhang Liang is captured by Zhao Gao and Li Si will inevitably find out the details of my scheme from Zhang Liang. I can't let Zhang Liang be captured alive. Dustless's eyes were rolling. As the saying went, there was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. If Zhang Liang, the main culprit of this scheme, died, no one would know the truth behind it. However, if he was caught by Zhao Gao's trap, he would inevitably get some unnecessary information. Cough, cough, cough. After coughing lightly, Dustless looked at concubine Yan and Yueshan. Seeing this, the two of them looked at each other and immediately understood Dustless's intention. Before the 6 sword slaves could make a move, they attacked Zhang Liang at the same time. How dare you kill someone in our Enyang school's territory? You have guts. Outsiders, please don't interfere. Yueshan's words contained a warning, which made Zhao Gao and Li Si frown. Young master, Li Si and Zhao Gao had no choice but to look at Fu Su. Fu Su just shook his head gently, indicating that they didn't need to meddle in other people's business. Just leave it to the Enyang school. Damn it, I don't have any chance of winning. Zhang Liang was unwilling to give up. Seeing Yueshan and concubine Yen closing in, the pressure on him increased exponentially. Even if he couldn't win against one of them, 2 against 1, wasn't it suicide? Therefore, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Zhang Liang made a shocking decision. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With the fastest speed in his life, Zhang Liang pounced to the side of the boat. Then, he decisively jumped into the sea. Chapter 1936. Jumping into the sea. This sudden scene caused everyone to be stunned. They didn't expect Zhang Liang to be so carefree and actually jump into the sea. This unyielding spirit that would rather die was truly admirable. Damn it. Concubine Yen and Yueshan looked at each other helplessly. No one expected Zhang Liang to jump into the sea. They looked at Dustless apologetically. That's good. Seeing this, Dustless didn't feel much. No matter what, Zhang Liang can do anything as long as he doesn't get caught by Zhao Gao. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At the same time, a sharp piercing sound came from the void. Even Wu Chen could not help but frown at the ear-piercing roar. What's that? Everyone stared at the falling flash of light in shock. Li Si and the others were terrified. Is that a meteor? Compared to the panicked Li Si and the others, Dustless was much calmer. To put it bluntly, it was a very ordinary celestial phenomenon. But in the eyes of Fu Su and the others, it was different. Boom boom boom. In the end, the meteorite unavoidably landed near Shanghai. Even from several thousand feet away, or even further away, one could still feel the violent tremors. Even the mirage, which was far away from the land, could feel the slight vibration. Huge ripples were visible to the naked eye on the surface of the water. It seems that this meteorite is not small. It caused such a big commotion. Ordinary people couldn't see it clearly, but for Dustless, who has the Tensigen, the situation in the distance was clear at a glance. Grandmaster Zicheng, a natural disaster is coming. Goodbye. Fu Su's face was pale white. Such an unprecedented calamity might shake the foundations of the empire. Some people with ulterior motives might even use this rare chance to fan the flames. Go do your work. Hearing this, Dustless nodded and looked at Yueshan, signaling her to dock the mirage as soon as possible. Time passed quickly and left quickly. About an hour later, all the guests left quietly. Everyone had different expressions on their faces. But the final winner was undoubtedly Dustless. What a great harvest today. Dustless sighed emotionally. He touched the body of Snow Ji and smiled strangely. Find a blacksmith and carve a few words on Snow Ji for Xiaomeng. Engraving words. The moon god, concubine Yen, great Si Ming, and young Si Ming were all speechless. Snow was ranked 6th in the sword scroll, which was enough to prove how extraordinary it was. Wouldn't carving the words on it ruin this peerless sword? What words? The moon goddess and the others couldn't help but ask curiously. Let me think. Dustless lowered his head and rubbed his chin. After thinking for a while, he said, Xiaomeng of the Death Heaven sect. Puchi. Hearing this, even the moon goddess, who was always calm and collected, could not help but chuckle. If Dustless really did that, Xiaomeng would probably fly into a rage out of humiliation and kill her way to his door. How should we deal with Zhang Liang? Great Si Ming asked. Don't be fooled by his angry look. Zhang Liang is actually a meticulous person. He might have done that on purpose just now. He might be enjoying himself somewhere right now. Don't worry about that brat. Zhang Liang has been expelled from the Confucian school by me. His reputation is ruined. What can he do? Dustless acted casually. Then, he said lazily, actually, I think it's more interesting this way. If Zhang Liang dies, wouldn't it be a waste of his talent? What a man with a bad taste. The moon goddess saw Dustless's expression and said doubtfully, I've been observing the stars for the past few days. The meteor just now doesn't seem to be as simple as it seems. Really? What do you think is different? A glint of surprise flashed in Dustless's eyes. He looked at the moon goddess with anticipation. This is a sign of evil. Concubine Yen looked serious and then said helplessly, the moon goddess and I are not as good at astrology as Dong Wang Tai. If it's him, he will definitely know what's going on. The meteor just now was indeed different. There were words written on it. Dustless said shockingly, Qin is dead and who is dead? This is what was written on the meteor. Do you think the moon goddess and I are 3-year-old kids? Concubine Yen looked at Dustless with a strange expression. If you don't believe me, you can go and ask around. Wu Chen shrugged his shoulders. He remembered this matter clearly, and there was absolutely no mistake. Qin is dead and who is dead? The moon goddess lowered her head and guessed. Then, she said doubtfully, you mean the barbarians in the north? They are indeed brave and good at fighting. They are the biggest threat to the Qin kingdom. No, no, no. Dustless shook his finger and immediately denied the moon goddess's point of view. He said, other than Fu Su, Yingzheng also has a talented and smart son. His name is Hu Hai. Li Si and Zhao Gao worked hard to destroy Fu Su. They wanted to help Hu Hai take the throne. Dustless muttered to himself, but in the end, they did succeed. They were really good at colluding with each other. They killed Fu Su. How do you know this? Imperial concubine Yen and Moon God opened their eyes wide. Fu Su was still alive and kicking, alive and kicking. Do I need to tell you? Of course, I know astrology too. I learned it from it. Even Dong Wang Tai is not as good as me. I can guarantee the accuracy. Dustless found a random excuse. Although it was just nonsense, it was the truth. In history, Fu Su was killed by Zhao Gao and Li Si. Chapter 1937. Near the coast of Sangxi, boom. 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 On the calm surface of the water, waves that were several meters high suddenly rose. Then, strange-looking mechanical monsters came out of the water, and there were several human figures among them. Everyone, what do you plan to do? Zhang Liang stared at the figures in front of him. They were Old Man Ban, Dao Ji, Wei Zhuang, Gunia, and the others of the school of Mo. I didn't expect Dustless to be the leader of the school of Yin Yang. Old Man Ban sighed. His staunch ally had suddenly become an unprecedented enemy. Not only was Old Man Ban caught off guard, but the school of Mo also found it difficult to accept. When he had first stepped into the mirage, Zhang Liang had secretly ordered the school of Mo to assist him. It had to be said that his foresight had saved his life. That guy is a great enemy of quicksand. I was the first to agree to deal with him. Wei Zhuang's face was cold. Because of Dustless, quicksand had suffered heavy losses. Now, only Qi Lian, Bai Feng, and the Black Qilin were left. The other members had all been slaughtered, and the instigator was Dustless. But how do we take revenge on Dustless? He's the leader of the school of Yin Yang, and now he controls the Confucian school. We have no place to start. That guy is like a hedgehog with thorns all over his body. Dao Ji said with a headache. He couldn't think of any loopholes in Dustless' plan. Humph, leave this to me. Zhang Liang's face flashed with hatred. He hated Dustless to the bone. This guy had framed him for no reason, causing him to lose his reputation and become a stray dog. How could Zhang Liang hold a grudge against him? Everyone, don't forget that he's still using the identity of Zichen. We can spread his true identity as Dustless. When that time comes, that guy will have to bear the consequences. Even the school of Yin Yang will be unlucky. Zhang Liang smiled sinisterly, a rare joy on his face. His bright eyes seemed to have already seen Dustless's unlucky appearance. Prime Minister, are you sure you want to do this? Zhao Gao looked at Li Si in a daze. He didn't expect that this Prime Minister, who seemed to be hiding his strength, would be no less than a fugitive when he went crazy. According to the development of the original work, Zhao Gao and Li Si were still in cahoots. However, with the sudden addition of Dustless as an enemy, the two of them coincidentally joined forces, sending an assassin to pretend to kill Dustless and frame the school of Yin Yang. Although it can drive a wedge between Fu Su and Dustless, it's more troublesome than I thought. Zhao Gao was slightly worried. Although Li Si had boarded his pirate ship, Zhao Gao was hesitant to take such a risk. If he failed, the blow would be fatal. He even dared to assassinate Fu Su. Once the truth was exposed, his entire family would be executed. Don't worry. Li Si calmly waved his hand and said calmly, the original intention of assassinating Fu Su was to frame the Yin Yang school, not to truly kill him. Also, how is the preparation of that thing going? That thing? Zhao Gao frowned and then took out a crudely made token and asked, Prime Minister, are you talking about the Farmer Party Shenong token? That's right. Li Si nodded and took the Shenong token from Zhao Gao's hand. He then laughed sinisterly, if on this Shenong token, there's the words the one who kills Zichen is the next hero of the Farmer Party, what do you think that kid will do? Both sides had a grudge for a long time, and Li Si didn't have any hopes of turning hostility into friendship. This is a great plan. Without even thinking, Li Si nodded and said coldly, this way, Zichen will face endless pursuit. We can also use this chance to destroy the Farmer Party. In Mulberry Sea City, the wall that was usually filled with wanted posters was now filled with people. Look, isn't that the third head of the Confucian school, Mr. Zhang Liang? Who said he isn't? Why is he wanted? And such a frightening bounty, 200,000 gold taels. What evil thing did he do? Who knows? Look, Zhang Liang's crimes are written at the bottom of the wanted poster. This damned scum actually killed his senior brother Fu Nian. He doesn't deserve to be a human. The passers-by were all dumbfounded as they stared at the shocking bounty. Without exception, all of them revealed shocked expressions. They had never heard of such a sky-high bounty. Subsequently, when they saw Zhang Liang's crime, all of them were filled with righteous indignation and cursed Zhang Liang for being cold-hearted. How sad. Dustless, who happened to pass by, glanced at the bounty and suddenly sneered. Life is like a dream, a dream. Concubine Yan, who followed Dustless, also sighed. A while ago, Zhang Liang was still the third head of the Confucian school. He had offended Dustless and was condemned by everyone as a villain. This is not a dream, but the result of overestimating himself. Dustless glanced at Concubine Yan and then slowly walked to the little sage manor. From now on, he was the only master there. At this moment, Concubine Yan's eyebrows suddenly blinked. She turned her head and looked at the crowd behind her. She asked, was it my illusion just now? I always felt that there were a few hidden eyes watching our movements. It's not an illusion. Dustless responded flatly, and then said with great dissatisfaction, it's just that some idiots who overestimate themselves are following us. This is the street, so it's not good to do it. Let's find a place where there are fewer people to kill. It's really bad luck. It's rare to come out when I'm in a good mood. There are always some self-righteous stalkers. I see. Concubine Yan nodded slightly and immediately sensed carefully. She found that the spying eyes had drifted away. But the mysterious person who is following us is a good master. His concealment skills are very good. That's not important. The people he is following are actually more terrible, Dustless answered coldly. Chapter 1938. Two figures were walking slowly in the back mountain of the Sage Manor. The environment is not bad. The scenery is beautiful. The footsteps suddenly stopped. Wu Chen admired the emerald shrubs around him with a faint smile on his face. The picturesque scenery made people indulge in it. The air was permeated with the fragrance of nature. A slight sniff would make people feel refreshed. Such a beautiful scenery is suitable for a graveyard. At this moment, a cold and low shout that was filled with killing intent suddenly resounded in Wu Chen's ears. Immediately, a few burly men leaped out from the forest. "You are," seeing the mysterious people staring at him fiercely, Dustless asked, "Guys, we don't seem to have any grudges. Why are you attacking me?" Before fighting, it was necessary to know what they were here for. "Since you are about to die, I will tell you the reason." The burly man who was obviously the leader stepped forward and said sternly, "We are the Lime Mountain Hall of the Farmers' Clan. I am Tian Meng, the Hall Master of the Lime Mountain Hall." "The Farmers' Clan?" Dustless frowned and said, "I don't have any grudges with you." Did the Farmers' Clan get the wrong person? Dustless had always been the one to find others to be his scapegoat. There was no way he would be the scapegoat for someone else. Also, this Tian Meng seems familiar. As Wu Chen's thoughts turned back, a tragic figure quickly appeared in his mind. That person died quite miserably. Tian Meng, the Hall Master of the Lime Mountain Hall of the Farmers' Clan. In the original work, he was assassinated by Zhao Gao's Luo Luo Luo. Zhao Gao blamed his death on Gunya and Wei Zhuang. However, although Tian Meng was dead, he had a good daughter named Tian Yen. She was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. She was known as the Farmers' Clan #1 think tank. After Tian Meng was killed and the competition for the title of Farmers' Clan #1 hero began, she became the target of all the clan halls. Later, she formed an alliance with Chiyu Hall and Gonggang Hall and became the Hall Master of the Lime Mountain Hall. "We don't have any grudges with each other, but," Tian Meng looked at Dustless ferociously and said in a cold voice, "Recently, the Shenong order has reappeared in Jianghu, and there is a paragraph of words. The one who kills Zichen of the Confucian school will be the next hero of the School of Agriculture." "I see." Dustless suddenly understood and muttered softly, "In order to deal with me, Zhao Gao and Li Si really put in a lot of effort. They even used something like the Shenong order." In the original work, Zhao Gao used the Shenong order to reappear in Jianghu. His intention was to let the farmers kill each other and weaken their strength. But who would have thought that the spearhead would change at this moment to kill Dustless? Any last words? Tian Meng's eyes lit up as he looked at Dustless. He said excitedly with victory in his hands, "If you don't have it, then let me kill you. I am determined to become the next hero of the Farmers' Guild. Dying in such a beautiful place is not a loss for you, kid." Swish. Swish. As soon as Tian Meng's voice fell, his body flashed over. There are so many people who overestimate themselves. Dustless crossed his hands in his wide sleeves. It seemed that he did not intend to do it himself. "Go to hell." Seeing that Dustless was not moving, Tian Meng immediately swooped down with his long sword. Buzz. However, at this moment, concubine Yen made her move. A burst of bright light burst out from her body. The dazzling light burst out powerfully. Caw. 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 A loud and clear cry resounded through the sky. A lifelike three-legged golden crow appeared in an instant. Its wings flapped and it swooped down toward Tian Meng. "What the hell is this?" Tian Meng was shocked. He instinctively stabbed the sharp sword in his hand. Crack. Unexpectedly, the three-legged golden crow's ability was quite extraordinary. It gently opened its mouth and easily crushed the long sword in Tian Meng's hand. It was extremely powerful. Caw. 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 The three-legged golden crow screamed again. A violent shock wave burst out from its body. It swooped straight toward Tian Meng, who was in a daze. It looked arrogant and its sharp cry was full of confidence. How dare a beast be so arrogant? How dare you? Tian Meng, who had come back to his senses, was furious. He did not expect to be looked down upon by a beast. He was instantly furious. A burst of powerful inner force burst out from his body. How boring, Dustless glanced at Tian Meng in boredom. He simply turned around and left. Although Tian Meng's strength was not bad and was not weaker than the black warrior, Xing Qi, Dustless was not interested in him at all. Concubine Yen would just play with him. As for Dustless himself, he walked lazily toward the little sage manor. It's really strange. There are usually people guarding the back door. Why is there no one at all now? After easily invading the interior of the little sage manor, Dustless raised his head to look for people. Although the back door was not the main door, there were usually many people guarding it. But at this moment, there was no one at all. This guy's whereabouts are suspicious. He must be up to no good for the Confucian school. That's right. Maybe he's a spy from another sect. Catch him quickly. We can't let him run away. Hand him over to Grand Master Dukhen for interrogation. Under the thick and dense willow tree, a group of Confucian disciples surrounded a figure. They looked at him like hungry wolves. From time to time, they would show expressions of hatred. Recently, the Confucian school had been quite unlucky. First, the little sage manor was burned down. Then, Fu Nian was killed. Yen Lu went missing. Zhang Liang was also expelled from the Confucian school. Even Sun Zi was killed. Now, only Dustless was left in the little sage manor. He had the most authority. You stinking brats, hurry up and go back to study. Do you want to be beaten? Dustless warned sternly. The group of Confucian disciples was immediately terrified. They were like frightened migratory birds. They fled in panic and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Really, seeing this, Dustless snorted softly. Then, he looked at the figure surrounded and was suddenly stunned. It's you? Aren't you recuperating in the Mahist stronghold? Why did you suddenly come to the Confucian school? The weak girl who was surrounded was Shirlan. However, her condition was not right. There was black gas rolling between her eyebrows, and her breath was very weak. Chapter 1939. In a daze, Shirlan seemed to have heard Dustless's shout and opened her eyes. After confirming that Shirlan was fine, Dustless heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the haggard Shirlan, he gently laid her down and leaned her against the thick willow tree. Only then did Dustless calmly ask, "How do you feel? Why do you look so pale? Those people from the Mo family wanted to harm you. I quickly rushed over to inform you, but, at this point, Shirlan's tone faintly sighed and was filled with disappointment. But they had many experts. If not for Miss Rong helping me escape, I might have been captured." Hearing this, Dustless did not speak. Then, he asked in confusion, "According to my understanding of the Mo family, they should not have made things difficult for you, even if they knew my true identity." The true master of the Enyang school, looking at Dustless, Shirlan continued, "At first, I was fine. Then, I heard their plan by chance and Zhang Liang suggested to kill me. It's that hypocritical brat again. I knew that he wasn't a good person." Hearing this, Wu Chen snorted softly and immediately carried Shirlan in his arms. "Bastard, what are you trying to do in broad daylight?" Shirlan looked at Dustless in panic and instinctively resisted. "Calm down." Dustless speechlessly glanced at Shirlan and comforted her, "I'm just carrying you back. Don't misunderstand. I'm not a hypocritical gigolo like Zhang Liang." "Yes," staring at Wu Chen's clear eyes, Shirlan reluctantly nodded her head after noticing his clear eyes. "Speaking of which, how has Snow Girl been recently?" While carrying Shirlan, Dustless slowly walked to his room. Ever since Gao Jianli's death, she has been greatly affected. Hearing this, Shirlan hesitated for a moment before revealing the truth. You're taking it for granted. Ever since they found out that you are the Dongwang Tai of the Yinyang school, the Mo family has imprisoned everyone close to you. I understand. Dustless only nodded faintly. He was not surprised. If it was him, he would have done the same. What's the situation with Rong? Dustless changed the topic and asked about Duanmu Rong. Is she also imprisoned by the Mo family? At first, they didn't. They only restricted Miss Rong's movements, but later, at this point, Shirlan sighed in self-reproach. After I eavesdropped on Zhang Liang's plan, I was discovered. In order to cover my retreat, Miss Rong fought with the Mo family. I'm afraid it was very dangerous. Plan? What kind of plan is it? Dustless asked calmly. He also wanted to know what kind of sinister plan it was. Zhang Liang said that he was going to expose your true identity. When the Qin state knows that you are Dustless, Yingzheng will be so angry that he will arrest the whole school of Yinyang. Shirlan voiced out Zhang Liang's thoughts, but who would have thought that Dustless would just laugh it off? Childish and pedantic. Dustless snorted disdainfully. He quickened his pace and sent Shirlan back to her room to rest. Speaking of which, don't you need to rescue Miss Rong and Snow Lady? They might be in danger. Seeing Dustless so calm, Shirlan was anxious and worried. After all, Duanmu Rong was stalling for time with her life. There's no need to rush. There are two sides to everything. Even though Rong, and the Snow Lady's freedom is restricted, there's still a good side. Furthermore, according to my estimations, the Mo family won't kill people for no reason. Dustless was calm and composed. His words confused Shirlan. She could not understand what Dustless was talking about. Is it a good thing that Miss Rong was arrested? You are so strange sometimes. Shirlan continued to ask, the Mo family is not the Mo family of the past. A cornered dog will jump over a wall. Jump over a wall? Dustless rolled his eyes and said casually, even if I lent them 100 guts, no one would dare to kill Rong. The Mo family knows about my relationship with her. If they kill Rong, I will definitely take revenge. They won't dare to provoke me. Furthermore, Wu Chen's eyes revealed a deep light. He said with a smile, strong wind knows strong grass. I should have told you just now that everything has a bad side and a good side. Only when encountering a great disaster, human nature will be revealed. Although it is very dangerous to have their freedom restricted, Rong, and Snow Lady can use this opportunity to see the Mo family's true colors. They will completely abandon their last hope for the Mo family and wholeheartedly seek refuge with me. Isn't that a good side? After Shirlan heard this, she nodded and said softly, it seems to make sense. Just rest well. Don't worry about anything else. Dustless left Shirlan in his Confucian residence and gave her a few more instructions. Then, he closed the door and left. He strolled alone on a small path in the forest. Lord Dustless. At this moment, concubine Yen suddenly appeared and stood in front of Dustless with a respectful expression. You're back. So fast. Dustless was slightly stunned when he heard this. He looked at concubine Yen in surprise and then asked, you killed all the disciples of the School of Agriculture? Yes, I killed all of them. Concubine Yen nodded. Just as she was about to report the details, Dustless attacked her. Then. You can go to hell too. Dustless, with a long sword in his hand, pounced on her and said with a sinister smile, your disguise is really good. But I forgot to tell you that concubine Yen never calls me Lord or anything like that. Idiot. Also, she wouldn't look at me with such respect. Chapter 1940. This damned smiling tiger. Hearing this, concubine Yan's face turned cloudy and dark. She quickly dodged to the side. Retreat now. Black smoke rose from her body, and concubine Yen showed her true form. She turned into a mysterious man in a black robe, and no one could tell what she looked like. You want to retreat in front of me? If you can escape, it's because I'm going easy on you. But I'm in a bad mood now, so I'd better ask you to die here. Seeing the mysterious man running fast, Dustless knew who he was. Black Kylan from Countercurrent Sand. You were lucky that I didn't kill you last time. Do you want God to bless you again? You don't think you're God's illegitimate son, do you? There was a hint of mockery and contempt in his words. Dustless suddenly raised his right hand, and a high-density flash condensed. Buzz. 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 The destructive edge wrapped around his thumb, and then Dustless locked onto the Black Kylan's position. He flicked his finger. Whoosh. Whoosh. The subtle light suddenly turned into a straight beam of light, and it approached the Black Kylan's body in an instant. Poof. The beam of light was fatal, and it penetrated his head in an instant. You bastard, how dare you kill me? Lord Wei Zhuang will never let you go, Dustless. After saying this with all his strength, the Ink Qilan fell to the ground lifelessly. A nobody should have the awareness of a nobody, be ready to die at any time. Dustless didn't even look at the Black Kylan's body. A long time ago, this guy had failed to assassinate him once. He really didn't understand where his confidence came from this time. Who is this? At the same time, concubine Yen arrived late. Seeing the Black Kylan's head penetrated, she took a closer look. Is he the Black Kylan under Wei Zhuang's command? The Black Kylan was quite famous, so it was reasonable that concubine Yen had an impression of him. As you can see, this arrogant guy is here to assassinate me again. Dustless scoffed at the Black Kylan's self-righteous self-confidence. Did it really think that it could deceive everyone? How did you deal with the kids from the Farmers Guild? Looking into Dustless's eyes, Dustless asked curiously. It would be best to kill them all. Tian Meng escaped under the cover of a few of his men. He was also seriously injured. As for the others he brought with him, I killed them all, concubine Yen said calmly. That brat Tian Meng ran away? Dustless frowned a few times. He had planned to kill Tian Meng to establish his authority, so that the Farmers Guild would not be able to cause trouble every day. They were pathetically stupid to be used by Zhao Gao. Since they were farmers, why didn't they just farm properly? Why did they have to come out and court death? That Tian Meng is the leader of the Lai Mountain Hall of the School of Agriculture. Killing him will cause big problems. Concubine Yen expressed her thoughts. The 100 schools of thought are the best among the disciples of the School of Agriculture. They have a lot of disciples. So what? Dustless asked indifferently. Concubine Yen, their internal conflicts are very intense. Some of them have even reached the point of killing each other. Even if the School of Agriculture is as strong as an iron board, do you think they can pose a threat to us? You think too highly of them. Dustless did not hide his contempt in his words. It was not that Dustless looked down on the School of Agriculture. If they were as strong as an iron board, the destructive power of tens of thousands of disciples would be beyond doubt. The key was that the School of Agriculture was also independent and had their own quirks. This kind of power would definitely be destroyed by others in the future. That makes sense. After thinking about it carefully, concubine Yen nodded slightly. The School of Agriculture was powerful, but the School of Yin-Yang was even more exaggerated. Remember, if you meet anyone from the School of Agriculture who dares to provoke us, kill them all. Damn it, that damn woman. Rushing back to the barren mountains of the School of Agriculture, Tian Meng's face was extremely pale. He spat out blood and looked very pale. In the fight just now, concubine Yen had easily injured him. You are very lucky to be able to come back alive from concubine Yan's attack. It seems that you have some strength. At this moment, an unexpected voice suddenly came from behind. Tian Meng turned around and saw Zhao Gao, who seemed to be strolling leisurely, and the 6 sword slaves. You are. Zhao Gao from the Luonet? As the hall master of the Lai Mountain Hall, Tian Meng naturally had good eyesight. He recognized Zhao Gao's identity in an instant. What do you want from me? The School of Agriculture has nothing to do with your Luonet. Tian Meng took a deep breath and looked at Zhao Gao warily. One was the most loyal dog of the Qin kingdom, and the other was a member of the anti-Qin alliance. Naturally, the two sides were like fire and water. Nothing to do with you? That's not right. We have a great relationship. Zhao Gao looked at Tian Meng gloomily and smiled maliciously. The Shenong Order of the School of Agriculture was issued by me. How dare you say that it has nothing to do with me? So it was you. Why did you issue such a vicious order? That Zichen is not an ordinary person. Hearing that, Tian Meng's heart skipped a beat. He knew that things were not going well. If he were an ordinary person, would he need the School of Agriculture? Stupid. Tian Meng, you will die here now. The other members of the Lai Mountain Hall of the School of Agriculture will definitely think that it was Zichen who did it. They will definitely be irreconcilable. He waved his hand, and the 6 sword slaves behind him immediately pounced on Tian Meng. Puff. 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 The 6 sword slaves cooperated closely. In just a few breaths, Tian Meng had been severely injured by the 6 sword slaves and fell into a pool of blood. Chapter 1941. Seriously, for such a small fry, you even troubled me to personally make a trip. You deserve to die, right? Zhao Gao glanced at Tian Meng, who had died unwillingly, and muttered to himself, the 6 halls of the School of Agriculture, try your best to put on a happy and serious performance. In reality, Zhao Gao did not expect the School of Agriculture to defeat Zichen. After all, there was still the Yinyang School and the scattered Confucian School behind him. Let's go. Time flew by and 3 days later, Tian Meng's death was unavoidably discovered by the School of Agriculture disciples. After all, he had died on the way back to the School of Agriculture. After only 2 hours, Tian Meng's body was discovered by the School of Agriculture disciples. That damn Zichen, he must have done it. That brat actually dared to kill Big Brother. I will definitely tear him into pieces and feed his corpse to the dogs. That will satisfy the hatred in my heart. In Tian Meng's morning hall, a young man with an eye patch and a domineering appearance was so angry that he wanted to tear Dustless apart alive. This person was Tian Meng's second brother, Tian Hu. Second uncle, please be careful. This is father's morning hall. Do not make a ruckus. The delicate and weak young girl with a pale and weak face frowned slightly when she saw Tian Hu's condescending manner and said with displeasure. A strange light flashed across the eyes of this seemingly delicate girl. She was Tian Meng's daughter, Tian Yen. Ever since Tian Meng was assassinated, she had inherited his position as the hall master of the School of Agriculture. Hearing this, Tian Hu was stunned for a moment. Only then did his fiery temper subside. However, his face was still gloomy and filled with hatred. If this was not Tian Meng's morning hall, he would definitely continue to be angry. I have been rude. However, I also feel sorry for Big Brother's death. You can rest assured that I will deal with this Zichen. Tian Hu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He was indeed like his name, a ferocious and capable tiger. Young miss, don't be angry. This is also to avenge the dead hall master Tian Meng. A pair of shifty eyes had been quietly observing this scene. Noticing that the atmosphere had become somewhat awkward, he stepped out to mediate. If you want to avenge the dead hall master of Lieshan Hall, you must unify the 6 halls of the School of Agriculture. That brat Zichen's background is too strong. With just the strength of our Gonggang Hall and Chiyu Hall, it's not enough to deal with him. After all, that brat has the School of Yinyang and Confucianism standing behind him. The person who spoke was the hall master of the Gonggang Hall, Tian Zhong. This fellow had shifty eyes and his eyes were very bright. He seemed to be the type of person who would be easily swayed by the wind. He didn't seem to be reliable at all. Second uncle, father's death. I never said that it was Zichen's doing. There's still something fishy about this matter. Tian Yen, who was guarding Tian Meng's coffin, suddenly had a strange light in his eyes. It was as if he could see through everything, and the truth behind it also surfaced. To put it bluntly, you still want to become the new hero leader. Hearing Tian Zhong's words, Tian Yan's expression didn't change, but he didn't take it seriously in his heart. Tian, whose previous words sounded nice. He wanted to avenge his father, Tian Meng, but in the end, it was still for his own sake. He just wanted to become the hero leader. The place where the School of Agriculture disciples found father's death is our School of Agriculture's territory. If Zichen really killed father, he shouldn't have died there. Tian Yen paused for a moment and whispered to himself, also. I've carefully examined father's body. There were 2 different kinds of attacks. One of them was caused by a sharp weapon. This is the root cause of father's death. The second kind of attack is similar to the moves used by the school of Yin Yang. In other words, the real culprit behind Big Brother's death might have been framed by the school of Yin Yang? Hearing this, Tian Hu frowned. Now that things had come to this point, if he still didn't understand, then he would be an idiot or a retard. That should be the case. Tian Yen nodded and continued to explain. When Zichen came down from the mirage, a few School of Agriculture disciples happened to pass by and found a woman from the School of Yin Yang following behind him. I think she was the one who attacked father. Although the injury was serious, it didn't cause father's death. The real cause of father's death was the sword wound later on. There's such a shocking inside story. After hearing this, Tian Hu asked in disbelief, then who do you think is the real culprit who killed Big Brother? When Big Brother's body was brought back, I heard from a few subordinates that there were sword wounds all over his body. Moreover, they were all extremely fatal. It was as if he was born to kill people. The wounds were all aimed at the vital parts. That's right. Tian Yen nodded and then said seriously, father was killed by a sword expert in an instant. He was killed on the spot almost without any strength to fight back. There are only 2 people who can do such a thing. One is Zichen of the Confucian school. I heard that his strength is extremely terrifying and unfathomable. As for the other one, a cold killing intent flashed in Tian Yan's eyes. It can only be the slave of 6 swords of Zhao Gao. If Wu Chen or Zhao Gao were here, they would definitely be full of praise for Tian Yen. She narrated the battle between Tian Meng and concubine Yen, as well as the process of the slave of 6 swords killing Tian Meng. Although there were some discrepancies in some places, it was commendable that she could analyze it so meticulously. Even so, our Chiyu Hall, Ganggang Hall, and Lai Mountain Hall still have to work together. Whether it's Zhao Gao or Dustless, we can deal with them calmly. Tian Hu changed the topic and mentioned the alliance again. It was not difficult to see that he was wholeheartedly aiming for the position of Hero Chief. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.